10 after 10.
Did you want to do the full hike?
I want you to tell me when it's 10:30. I'm going to take her further than you, so you can.
Oh no, I'll keep going. I'll just do the 2 o'clock. It's okay.
All right, good.
Yeah, no, I'll go on the full Underground Railroad hike.
I will give you a lot more information about. Well, you'll get it on the tour.
Yes. Good morning.
I also can talk to you and do a tour with both of you if you wish in the barn. Actually, that's good. So we don't have to rush because frankly, you wouldn't get very far. You have to turn around for your left.
Yeah, I want to hear the history.
Okay.
So, when do they have the period character actors come out? When are they on the trail?
Last night.
Oh, they did one last night?
With Reverend Green, who was I don't know how much you know about. Reverend Green was a friend of Josiah Henson, and Josiah Henson was an actual enslaved person living in what is today Bethesda. That's
yes.
Another one of our sites.
Yes.
It's on Old Democracy Road. And Reverend Green, who was played by my former chair at Montgomery College at Tacoma Park, was a friend of Henson's. And here's a fascinating story. His only sin, he was caught reading Uncle Tom's Cabin. He's a free black. He's a preacher, and he's sentenced to 5 years in jail merely for reading this book, which of course Southerners didn't want people to read, because it doesn't portray a very rosy, not that it could be a rosy picture.
So would you like to,
characters.
He was one of the characters, Reverend Green?
Reverend Green.
So, this is live, and somebody wants to know, wasn't the Underground Railroad underground? So I'm going to show you guys a path that we're walking on, and it's not underground, but please explain.
Well, that's a great question. In fact, Underground Railroad is a term for the various routes that runaway slaves, enslaved people took. And actually, to better answer your question, there's several stories about where the term Underground Railroad comes from. And there are two sources. One is a slave named Tice Davids in 1831, which by the way is the same year as the Nat Turner Rebellion in Virginia. He crosses the Ohio River, which of course back then was the Mason-Dixon line, and his owner says he must have disappeared on Underground Railroad. So it's this colloquial figure of speech that then became a euphemism for this system. Another story is in The Liberator, the abolitionist newspaper, an editorial in 1839 talked about the desire for a great Republican railroad, which is kind of interesting because the Republican Party grew in part out of the resistance to slavery. So the
Republican Party grew out of resistance? Interesting.
In the 1850s, primarily. A very, by the way, I have to say, a very different party than the current party.
Of course. Of course.
Well, they flipped in the 60s, yes, to some extent. And
laughing out loud, 30 years I thought it was an underground railroad. See, people still think the thing is underground.
To better answer your question, it's a great question because we get a lot of book groups, and there's a book by Colin Whitehead that Oprah touted on her show last year.
What? Something fell?
And his book is titled Underground Railroad, the creative title. But in his book, which is fiction, he has a physical railroad.
Oh, really?
So
he has a physical railroad in the book?
Yep.
Okay.
Cora, I think, is the protagonist, the runaway. And she literally goes down a stairway to, it's almost like a current subway stop.
Okay.
And gets on a physical railroad.
Okay.
Which, by the way, makes our job a lot harder.
All right.
So, I often am asked, I actually like to make it a question. So we're talking about the weather, right? And you might find this a better time to run away, even though the weather's bad. You want to guess when they ran away? What time of year?
Christmas?
Yes. How do you say that?
Harriet Tubman. She did hers at Christmas.
Why would they do it at Christmas time? You're absolutely right. Most people say summer. Or Saturday nights.
Or Saturday nights? Okay.
They were given off for the holidays for Christmas and Sundays, so if they left on if they left on Saturday night, they wouldn't be noticed until Monday.
And if they
You
left
guys
on
mind
Christmas,
being
they might be gone for a
on
week.
camera?
By the way, you guys know more than this. I'm leaving.
We don't know more of this.
It's
Come
funny.
back, come
when
back.
I ask that question, people often say
There you
they tend to answer summer. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
And Christmas, particularly if you're a field hand, you might have, when you say Saturday night, you might have a day and a half. If it's Christmas, you might have a week. And
That's
if
true.
you're a
That's
slave
true.
here before
Hello.
1850, we'll get to 1850 in a second, so that's a huge turning point. You're 3 days on foot from Mason-Dixon line. So you very likely are gone before your master wakes up New Year's Day.
3 days from the Mason-Dixon line,
That'll change.
which state?
Which in before 1850 is the border between Pennsylvania and Maryland.
Border between Pennsylvania and Maryland, which is what Harriet Tubman did.
Exactly.
So it took her 3 days, approximately. It could,
3 or 4.
yeah, if you go
If
directly.
you're lucky.
Yeah.
And obviously, so it'll be winter time. Be careful of the,
Yeah.
the
Well,
two
I'm
things-
ready. That's why we've got the boots.
And this is off the record. You also have to look out for puddles and horse manure.
Yes, I know. I heard about the horse manure. That's why I was like, where's the horseback riding? So we don't get to ride the
Share this-
horses.
No, don't push it. We share this with the park police. And by the
Yes.
way, if they act up, they have tasers. Don't put that on tape. But so they custom. Actually, private owners also ride through here.
Oh my God.
But guess what? We have a story of a runaway slave.
Who taught you the knowledge of the Underground Railroad?
A lot of it I knew, and a lot of it I learned from training. I teach history at Montgomery College.
Oh, you do?
Knoxville. I
Awesome.
better know my stuff, but
Oh.
you and Lex. And what's your name?
I'm Janice.
You're Janice.
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 Okay.
Are we looking for slaves? No, we're not looking for slaves.
But I want you to look for landmarks.
I hope not.
We're going to look for what?
To look for landmarks that you might incorporate if you're running away, because I want you to try to, as much as one can 150 years later, imagine what might help you escape.
Not the trail.
What might help you
Of
escape?
course, they're not on a trail anymore. But of course, if it's winter, there's less growth.
That's true.
And by the way, thank you, because I often ask that question, how do they know which way to go?
Yes.
You probably noticed they had the Polaris, the North Star, and that chart back there.
Yes.
That would be a huge tip-off.
Yes.
Um,
But you can't see it if it's summer
or if
through
it's-
the growth.
Or if it's cloudy, exactly.
Or cloudy. There's
So I
no
want you to
North
look for
Star.
other landmarks that, let's assume the moon is not out, or the North Star is not out, what you would use.
Okay.
Realize that they are, very little is written down because if anything's written at the smoking gun, it could be used against the runaway, so it's word of mouth. It gets back to your question. The Underground Railroad is a word of mouth system of safe houses, of quote conductors, of helpful people, of sites such as Philadelphia, which is first of all right on the border between free and slave states, and a huge Quaker community. Of course, Quakers were opposed to slavery.
Are you a Quaker?
I'm not.
You're not a Quaker. Okay.
Richard Nixon was a Quaker, go figure.
Who?
Richard Nixon, a former
Richard Nixon was a Quaker? No.
was raised early, but he
No way.
became an opposite.
He became a what?
He fell away from it.
Okay. That is,
They are, and one of the reasons we do the tour here, speaking of Quakers, and again, you may know all this, so if I'm giving you stuff you know about, you can smack me or just smile. The home that you'll see at length later was owned by a Quaker, William Palmer. And the reason we do the tour here is we have this trail.
Yes.
To hire people like me, but also the owner of that house, by definition, is a Quaker as opposed to slave. His first wife sadly dies,
yes.
Sarah, of complication of childbirth, and he remarries a woman who's Episcopalian, like me. I used to be Episcopalian. So
Okay.
you may see where the story is going. So part of her dowry are 13 enslaved people.
Oh, wow.
Is there a big bug coming in?
No, there's like a huge spider web.
Oh,
This
okay.
Oh, there's a
Good eye.
spider. Okay.
So that's one of the things we do the tour is this man ends up with slaves, even though he is religiously and philosophically opposed to it. But
Right.
he loves this woman, marries her, and you're in a huge Quaker community.
Right.
Still.
Yes.
Sandy Spring is still a huge Quaker community. So there would be a lot of people here helping runaway slaves.
So how did the Quaker end up on the Quaker Oats? Why are they associated in America?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's somebody's question about it. I don't know. I never even thought about it. But the, huh? Periscope.
For like friends?
No, people around the world. People are just joining and asking questions.
So, this would be a landmark.
Oh, that's a landmark.
This is Moths.
Okay.
And you have to realize this is a weird story because this is often at dark. It's almost like a Helen Keller Braille moment. They would feel, or if they're lucky and there was some light, look for moss.
Okay. And what does moss?
Traditionally on the north side of a tree.
The north side of a tree.
So if you're running away, this is a sign that you want to go that way.
Oh, that's a sign you want to go that way.
You were supposed to notice it first.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I didn't see that.
But that would be, again, this is part of my shtick here, that would be something they would want to know about. The catch is sometimes there are instances of moss not on the north side. But generally, and this is more true in New England where I'm from, but generally if it's on this side, you want to go that way.
Okay.
So we're already in trouble. We should go this way.
We should go.
No, it's too late.
I was going to say.
We are. And actually the other reason, I don't want to give away the floor here, but the other reason we're doing this is we are, well, we'll talk about water later on, and we're sort of paralleling a very, very important body of water, which tends to run north to the other way. Tends to run north to south.
Good morning, guys.
So here's some more moss.
More moss?
Actually shows up more on the side of the book.
Okay. So we passed north. Now we're going not north.
Which way are we going now?
I don't know. I guess we're going east. Okay.
See,
Hi, how are you doing?
And I'm opposed to GPSs because they're often wrong.
Hey, Darcy. Hey, Brandon.
East, west, and north, south.
Hi, Annette. Thanks for joining. Please share it out.
Janice, are you local?
I live in Rockville.
Okay.
So they only have character actors on Friday nights.
Certain events. This is Heritage Day. They do it on Emancipation Day in November.
Okay.
In 1864, the year before the 13th Amendment, Maryland freed its slaves. So we do an event then.
Yes.
And there's another day.
It's muddy out here, you guys.
Yeah, be careful on these hills. Really nice.
Okay. So how far in advance do you have to sign up? Because when I looked at it, it was already full. But I mean, yeah, for last night. For Friday night.
Those fill up soon. That's a special tour.
All right.
Yes, to answer your question. That's
because I want to do one with the reenactors. So do the people carry flashlights out here at night?
They carry lanterns, proximity lanterns.
Lanterns?
They try to discourage flashlights because usually flashlights end up going in other people's eyes.
Okay.
Like the Boy Scouts like to do.
Oh, okay.
We do scouts, and they love to, and we do a night tour of them, but they love to turn the lights on. I was a Boy Scout.
Okay.
So, of course, I was mischievous, and you shine it instead of... And actually, what I tell people when I do night tours is, not that anybody should bump anything, if your eyes adjust, without light, you can actually see fairly well.
Interesting.
And that's what runaways are doing. They have no such... However, lights are huge in terms of a safe house. There might be a lantern, a candle. There's a man named John Rankin in Ripley, Ohio, who first lived in the village right on the Ohio River, later moves up the hill, and he would put a lantern, candle. The catch is, that's also a tip-off for the bounty hunter, person who might be coming after the slave.
Okay. Okay.
So we're stopping here because it's time for another question. And it's a little deceiving because they're covered with weeds, kudzu. Do you see any hiding places?
The bushes?
Yeah, this is obviously a key concern for run. Exactly. Those are actually thorn bushes.
Oh, thorn bushes.
And if I said hide in a bush of thorns, you'd probably smack me.
Oh, no.
But we have accounts of runaway slaves. You know, you do what you have to do to escape.
They
right?
hid in
they
thorn bushes?
In a thorn bush.
Oh my
That's why we stopped.
God.
It's called the Brambles. I stopped you before the song because I didn't want to give it away.
Oh,
so I
okay.
usually ask people, and I hope this is okay, being interactive. Where would you hide? They also say you might go up a tree. There are a lot of trees.
Go
with
up a tree?
Grapevines.
Yeah.
Sort of a Tarzan spin-off.
I would do the tree over the thorns, I think.
But there's an anecdote, and I have to be careful how I say this. There was a man named Joel Harris who wrote a thing called Song of the South that Disney made into a movie.
Yes.
If that rings a bell or not. Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and all that.
Yes,
and
yes.
There's a dialect that I'm not going to try to duplicate because I'll get fired. It's like Amos and Andy.
Right.
People in the beginning.
Yeah.
But my point is, there's the anecdote of the Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit. And Brer Rabbit, I don't know if this rings a bell, it's a classic story, but it's been removed because it wasn't PC.
Right.
Even though Disney made a movie. But
Yeah.
my point is, Brer Rabbit outfoxes the fox by hiding in a briar patch.
Yes, the briar patch.
So
I remember the briar
go.
patch.
So that's one of the reasons we stopped
Yes.
there. We used to talk more, and some people foolishly tried to do the dialect. And I was with a guy, and I kept saying, it's an all African group.
Oh,
I said,
no. No.
He didn't get the memo. That's why it doesn't work here.
Okay. No. Song of the South was
Not that I
written
don't put my foot in my
by
mouth either.
Alabama. Huh?
But that's, so, you know, it
Okay.
gets back to manure. We have accounts of runaways putting manure on them. We have accounts of them putting garlic.
They
It's a
put
grass
manure?
that smells like garlic or onion.
Oh,
And they would
wow.
put that on their body to throw off the... You have to realize these people coming after you, possibly with dogs,
Yes.
like bounty hunters.
Yes.
So the odds are stacked against you. And the other issue I should point out is it depends how valuable you are. If I were running away, especially being old, they'd probably not go after me, but they might go after someone your age. Frederick Douglass was a likely target.
Right.
He was 18 years old when he escaped.
Yes.
He's in
More
great shape.
valuable.
He's in such great shape he stands up to an overseer. I don't know what you know about Frederick Douglass.
Yes, he
That's another
did.
story.
He whipped him.
So I usually on
Yeah.
the tours I say it depends if somebody's gonna raise money to come after you. If you are younger, they might pay more. There's a rumor that Harriet Tubman, the bounty went up to $40,000. That's a myth,
Right.
but obviously they would have loved to have caught Harriet Tubman since she did it so many times. It wasn't 40,000; it was probably 4,000, and it was a moot point because she wasn't captured. By the way, I was doing a tour of St. Andrew's School in Bethesda.
Yes.
Baron Trump goes to school, and I didn't realize that they were Secret Service. I was a slow learner. And so I'm doing this anecdote about what they would pay for runaways, and I pointed unknowingly at a Secret Service guy, and I said, but this guy they pay big bucks for. And then I realized he's got a wad up here, and he's a wire, and he's built like a linebacker. So on the tour, right about here, I said, I'm so sorry that I said that. I didn't want to give it away. And he was great. He let me off easy. I get that a lot.
Oh, my
It's an
God.
amazing story.
It is an amazing story.
Look good? Well, I don't know if I look good, but I should have.
Those
put
are more
that on
thickets.
signal.
Oh, wow. It's a lot of, you call it bramble? There's a lot of them. That had to be a painful journey. Oh, God. Because we're on an actual mud trail. They're going just through the woods, right? There was no trail for them. They're just going through growth, right?
There are some accounts of slaves using things like the C&O Canal
C&O Canal?
along the Potomac. Frederick Douglass, a lot of people were successful going by water. This is Frederick Douglass.
Okay, Frederick Douglass did use the water.
Left room for error.
This is the Quaker Underground Railroad Trail in Olney, Woodlawn Manor. This is not Harriet Tubman's trail. Huh?
That one's on the eastern shore.
Yes, it is on the eastern shore, but they don't have hiking like this.
See, they do. They have a lot of trails there and water trails. That's their thing.
Yeah, but from the visitor center, they need to have one into the woods.
I've been to this place. It's a great thing.
It is.
Actually,
It's now a national park.
they have a tour from Gaithersburg that will take you all the sites that have to do with the trail of like Rockville and Gaithersburg, and then there's like the houses and stuff, and then they'll drive you over the bridge over to Cambridge to the eastern shore of Maryland and show you Harriet Tubman's house and stuff.
Oh, really?
A lot of people
Harriet Tubman's house.
like the one that she escaped from, I think.
Oh, okay.
The Ross
Oh, okay.
Because the
Okay, so they go to the other county. They go to Caroline County.
yeah.
To where the house is. All right. Okay, and what's the tour in Gaithersburg?
Store. There's a Buck store. The general
Bucktown store,
and
yes.
You may know this. I'm sure you do. That's where she was hit with a weight.
Yes.
Which is why I was saying earlier in the parking lot, our reenactor sort of falls asleep because she had fainting spells
Yes.
and dizzy spells. Because this weight was what they would measure flour and sugar at that Buck general store.
Okay. So the next time reenactors are coming would be Emancipation Day?
Probably November.
November.
I don't know about this group Lex is talking about. You can ask her. But it sounds like a great thing.
We're hiking the Underground Railroad Trail in Olney, which is the Quaker area.
We're actually in Sandy Spring.
Sandy Spring.
We're actually a little bit
Sandy Spring. That's where we are.
south and east of there.
Okay, so this is the trail.
You know, it's weird. There's a little plaque as you're going to Easton. It says Douglas birthplace. So my wife and I drove there, and that was it. It was just a plaque very close to the dangerous road. All right, so you guys just failed.
What happened? What did we do?
Did you just notice something?
We went downhill
But as a landmark,
as a landmark.
something that was a little unusual.
A little unusual. Do you guys see anything?
That people could have described to others as you're going in the right direction.
So this is part of the point, and it's a little deceiving because I was just talking to you, and you're worried about slipping, so you're off the hook. But this is a very unusually large branch of a locust tree.
Locust
Whether or not
tree.
this tree was here 150 years ago, I don't know. But let's pretend it was. That would be something, getting back to your earlier question about the Underground Railroad, word of mouth. They would say, look for a large locust tree on
Okay.
your route. Now,
Okay.
let's assume they're on this. They might have been. The odds are, and we're going to get to it in a second, they would be further east near a body of water, which we're going to get to.
Okay.
And not only is it rather unusual, it's facing which direction?
North.
No.
Yeah, well, there's moss drawing.
It's actually facing west.
It's
big
facing
branch,
west?
It's kind of a trick question. This big
Yeah.
branch that I'm talking about faces due west. So as with the moss,
Oh, the branch
that
is
would
facing
be something
west.
they would orient themselves, saying, if
Okay.
that's going west, I want to go the direction we're going.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes.
By the way, if anything I say I need to go over, although I think I'm preaching to class, I think you guys know it. I can just turn around and go back. I wish my wife was here. She writes American Grocery, and she talks to aspiring writers. She makes, of course.
Ooh, wee.
Oh, it's easy to
Nice
write.
muddy
It's
hike here.
And one of the artifacts she uses is Molly. I don't know if you've seen it around here. But
Oh,
Molly
wow.
was the first book, and she literally wrote it on a diesel pad, and it lives in South Carolina. And she sent it in to the computer.
Okay, is this a point?
All right, so what's this?
A body of water.
It's a stream.
Okay, what's the name of it?
What's the name of the
Somebody said Potomac. What's the other river that meets the Potomac down by the baseball stadium?
Is this Sandy Spring?
We're in Sandy Spring.
But there's no spring?
We are on our way to the spring, whether we get
Oh.
to the spring. But the Sandy Spring is a spring, like so.
Anticosta?
Exactly.
Okay.
People don't
This is the Anticosta
Yeah,
River?
Not much of it, is there? But this
No.
is the Anticosta River.
Wow.
So good job. Most people say Potomac. I've heard Missouri, Mississippi, whatever. And it's deceiving because there's not much water there.
No, it
As I was
isn't
talking
to
about
be.
the tree,
Yes.
and it's a little confusing because it's pretty serpentine. It winds around here. By the way, the Sandy Spring Quaker School is over there. The ropes course, adventure ropes course over there. I think I just put my hands there and had a trouble. But the river, although it's curvy, is just basically flowing north to south.
Okay,
There's
north
another
to
huge
south.
landmark. If you're running away, you want to follow that river. You also want to follow the river because it's a source of water to drink. Don't drink this, you'll get giardia. And you might go, if they're coming after with dogs, you might deliberately crisscross it throw off the side of the dogs.
Okay.
But good job saying Anticosta because a lot of people get it wrong. And it's a trick question because there's hardly, that's actually more water because of the rain.
Oh, wow.
Spring, there's a lot more of it.
Wow, okay. It's interesting.
I just came back I drove my daughter's car from Seattle here, and on my way, I'm a big Lewis and Clark fan, and I went to the source, just like this, up here, Sandy Spring, the source of the Missouri River.
It says, what about black pepper? Will it throw off the dogs?
It might.
It might.
Who said that?
Somebody on here, I don't know. What's your name who said about the black pepper?
She's like live streaming.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's around the world. They're just people just join.
Okay.
They just join.
I'm a writer for a paper and this.
You're famous today.
Either famous or infamous.
No, you're famous.
I should have worn a tuxedo or something.
Oh, tuxedo, no. Do you have you written any history books?
Get your park bus. Too late now. Trump raised it to $80. I have
What?
an old guy. I have an old age park pass.
Uh-huh.
$10. This will get you in any national park. But unfortunately, our president raised it from 10 to 80.
It went from $10 to $80. Yeah. Oh my God!
But
and that'll get you into little
national park.
Wow.
It's still worth it, even though it's I guess $80. Don't get me started. The parks are very underfunded.
They are. They need the $80.
Again, it goes to the parks on 4th. It goes to guns on that. It's a little dubious where the money is. That's off the record. Now that we're under the canopy.
We're under the canopy? Are there any snakes out here? People want to know about snakes. Snakes and possums. He's never seen one on a tour. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Here's another nice marker that will help you.
Oh, okay. What was that?
I have no idea. I'm going to build an on-ramp to a little slippery here.
Okay, we'll be careful.
Come to a water hole.
Oh, water hole.
You have 2 water boots that go to the right if you don't go to the left.
Okay, I think my water boots are fine. Oh, okay. Go.
I did almost lose
Okay.
There's a Quaker-owned assisted care place here.
Are there any underground caverns near here?
Cavern?
Yes. Caverns.
Like, I think caves.
Caves?
Caves, I
I
think.
don't know any around here, but there are some along the Patapsco River, south of Baltimore.
Okay.
And we have a story that either, I don't know which, Harriet Tubman or Frederick Douglass incorporated one of those.
Okay.
Leading probably Tubman, because she's the one who comes back a lot, hiding in that cave.
Oh, really?
There's a cave along the Potomac above Seneca.
Interesting.
And there are stories of runaways staying there, and also during the Civil War, either rebels or Yankees staying there.
Okay. How many miles is the trail? People want to know.
If we go to the spring, it's about 3 miles round trip.
3 miles round trip to the spring.
When we get to the bridge, I'll take a boat. If we go to the spring or not, it adds another 40 minutes. And I say this, I'm happy to go there. A lot of people think it's going to be like Old Faithful. Actually, I never know it. But we can decide at the bridge.
Okay. This is a long walk. Yeah, it's a walk. It's a hike. That's why it's called a hike. How much further they want to know?
Sounds like my daughter on a road.
I know, right? Are we there yet?
I'm not answering that.
He says he's not answering.
What's he going to say? Where's the McDonald's?
he said, Hollow tree. Wait. Here's the sign. Where is it? Oh. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That is a hollow tree.
And this bamboo thing is weird. Maybe that's because they don't want the people to go there. But
Are there any wild berries
so
that
by
grow
way,
in the
this is what I
area?
use on my tour if you act up.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
Just kidding. I would never do that.
Oh,
Customer
that's
is always right.
funny. That's funny.
We stopped at this tree because it's obviously a landmark.
Yeah, and then there's
obviously
a...
would give you some protection being in the lee of the wind. And remember, if they're escaping in the wintertime, most of our weather comes from that direction, being north. So it's not a Holiday Inn, but it might give you some shelter.
Oh, the weather
You're
comes
running
from
away.
the north, and then
So
people
we also
would stand
stopped
in
here
there.
because this is a facsimile of a slave by the name of Grimes, who in fact did stay in a hollowed out tree.
Okay.
So it's a true story. That
And there's a
was
snake
revealed-
he's killing.
And you asked about snakes? There's a
Yes,
snake
he's killing
killing.
a snake.
Because he's living off the land for about 3 weeks. He escapes from Raleigh, North Carolina,
Wow.
which is a lot further south than here,
Wow.
to Philadelphia.
Okay.
And the reason we know this, and this will help in my tour, I've got a smart group here. We have a man named William Still, and William Still is a free black, and he kept track of, what should be the last one? He kept track of anecdotes by runaway slaves. Very unusual, because they're a great risk to tell their story. And in Philadelphia, he actually would write down, would listen to their stories. He was so nervous about it falling into the wrong hands, he would hide them in a bank vault every night,
Oh, wow.
because it's obviously damning evidence.
Yes.
to find
Yes.
these people.
Yes.
After the Civil War in 1872, so the war's been over for 11 years, he publishes an account of runaway slaves, and that's where he heard about Grimes living under a tree.
Yes.
It's also, I do outdoor ed programs, and I often have kids build a shelter, and I said you might be better off using existing elements of nature, such as a tree, because you could rig some branches off of this.
Okay, they want to know, are there edible berries or vegetation that they would have used
Yes,
to eat
but
off
probably
of?
not as many because it's wintertime. Not everybody
Oh,
runs at wintertime.
yeah, during the wintertime it wasn't
Yes,
available.
there are raspberries, there are blackberries.
Raspberries and
Unfortunately, some of them
blackberries.
ate hollyberries, which are toxic.
Oh, wow.
You have to be careful.
Holly
When
berries.
we were at that stream, the Anacostia, there's skunk cabbage, which doesn't sound
The
very
Underground
appealing.
Railroad is the book written by William Still. It's a book. The Underground Railroad is a book.
Well, wait a minute. No, the Underground Railroad is a book by Coleman Whitehead. We talked
No, William Still's
William-
book is it's titled The Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
I never heard of
You're
the
right.
other
I
one.
beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Illustrations from William Still's The Underground Railroad. So
Yeah, you can get them
Coleman
free.
Whitehead owes a footnote to that because he used the word as well.
Yeah, but it was William Still first.
Okay. The other thing that's cool about this is the border between Palmer, who owned that state manor house where we just were,
Uh-huh.
and a man named Snowden. And Snowden owned about 3,000 acres, and it was from Snowden that Palmer amassed more land.
Oh,
And this is the borderline. And this stone used to be near the creek, but they wanted to use it in case you missed the tree. How you missed the
Poxy
tree.
salad, wild
To show the,
greens.
to show the site. So here's Still.
Yes, that
who
is William
recorded these
Still.
stories. He's
That
a
is
fascinating
William
story. We have
Still.
a film in the gift shop, and he ends up reunited with his brother, who is sent further south, and he shows up at his place, and they haven't seen each other for years, and it's his lost brother. He was
Wow.
sent further south. You may have heard that expression. That's when they would punish a slave. and
Yes.
They'd be sent further south,
Yes.
which means you're probably less likely to escape because you're further south geographically, and if you're a field hand, you're going to work more hours.
Okay. No, I have never
We'll use
eaten
that as
dandelion
punishment.
greens. I'm not eating. I know people
You
do
could
eat.
dandelion greens.
Yes, you could. I do not.
Okay, so this is, I meant to show this back at the first sign. This is another thing, an obstacle that runaway slaves are facing. And next time I'll put this in order. This is, on top of everything else that's horrible about slavery, this is what they're up against. This is a
The
facsimile
runaway
of a reward.
ads. Oh, this is Harriet Tubman's ad. Oh, wow. Yes.
So
yes.
you know who Minty was. See,
yes.
Most people would know that was Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
That was her nickname. She was Araminta Ross
Yes.
before she married a man named Tubman, who, by the way, will remarry while she's north. Another interesting story. But this is fascinating because here is Araminta with her brothers.
Right.
Notice it says aged about. I'm sure you know that.
Yes.
They never knew their age, and their owners didn't want them to know their age.
Right.
In fact, Frederick Douglass died being off a year. We're celebrating the centennial of his birth.
Yes.
Bicentennial? Bicentennial.
Bicentennial.
I'm doing the math right, which is unlikely. He thought he was born 1819. In fact, he was born 1819. He died at Cedar Hill, another site in Anacostia, being off a year.
Okay.
So this is what they're up against. This would be put up at, and one of the things I want to talk, and I have to be very careful as a white person, but this whole slavery thing sucked in a lot of people in the middle, white or black, free blacks, free whites. And if you're a hard-scrabble farmer, you're not William Palmer, who has slaves and a lot of money because he's a successful farmer and doctor. He made more money as a farmer, by the way, as a doctor. You might be inclined to go after slaves because $300 in 1849 is a lot of money. You could stop working. And you may be totally ambivalent about slavery. But you see the sign at a tavern and say Wheaton or only, say, I might try to go get those people. I don't believe in slavery, it's immoral, but I could stop working.
Wow.
And I think Douglass, and again I have to be careful not to minimize slavery, one of the points Douglass tried to make when he became free and spoke was, look at the effect of slavery on white people. The debilitating, he used those words, debilitating, that adjective. And the classic example, who's the bad guy in Uncle Tom's Cabin?
Josiah Henson, Uncle Tom.
Well, Henson is the character who Tom is based on.
Right.
But who's the bad guy? Who is the slave breaker? And African American students in my class use this term.
He was the overseer. He was the overseer.
His name was Simon Legree.
Oh, Simon Legree. How could I forget Simon Legree?
And my point is,
how could I forget him?
But Simon Legree is a transplanted Vermont farmer. And my point is, I think Harriet Beecher Stowe made a point of making a transplanted Yankee farmer become the prototypical Antichrist, bad person on the plantation where Tom lived.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I'm saying this because Stowe makes a point of this, and this gets back to Douglass's point. Look at the effect, and the classic example is, you may know this anecdote, I'm sure have you read Douglass's autobiography?
Yes, I have. It's been a while, but yes,
Okay,
I have read it.
Go back and read
I
the
do
first one, it's
reread
shorter.
it.
But one of the accounts he talks about is how he's taught to read by his master, Colonel Anthony's daughter-in-law. Anyway, he lives in Baltimore, and he's a playmate for Old's son, who's the same age, which is a pretty lucky thing for Douglass to be in that situation. And his Lucretia, his mistress in a sense, his master's son's wife, teaches Sam, her son, white guy, and Douglass to read for about 2 weeks. This may ring a bell or not. And the owner, her husband, comes in and he goes ballistic. He says, if you give an N, I won't use the word, an inch, she'll take an L, that cliche expression. And Douglass, being a smart person, he says, boy, they have a lot, they're really nervous about it. They have a lot to hide. And in his autobiography, among all the other great things he writes, he said, that was his first real anti-slavery lesson. To see that much defensiveness for the mere act of teaching. And obviously, owners don't want, so that's why their names are about, that's why their ages are about. They didn't want them to know this stuff because it's a pathway to knowledge.
Absolutely.
What about Harriet Jacobs? She wrote Incidents in Life of a Slave Girl.
Right.
I've read that one.
That's also a good account. Yeah, that's one of the books. I should have brought my list. I used to have a book list. I can email it to you. Give me your email. I have a list of books, and it includes Colson Whitehead's books.
Okay.
And there's one, there's The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. There's Harriet Jacobs' story. There's Never Been Caught about a woman named Honest Judd.
Yes,
As a house slave at Mount Vernon. And that's fascinating. You're nodding. So that, as you know, she ends up escaping from Philadelphia, because the nation's capital is then in Philadelphia. And because it's a Quaker city, you have to rotate your slaves. So Washington...
Philadelphia was a Quaker city. I didn't know that's why they had to rotate.
A lot of slaves went through there. But the capital is there before D.C., and the Quaker stipulation is you have to rotate your slaves. So this woman, Onus Judge, escapes from Philadelphia to New Hampshire. The President of the United States, who basically owns her along with Martha,
George Washington,
yes, sends a member of his cabinet after her, and she eludes him.
Yes,
yes. That's a pretty amazing story. She's about to be turned over to Martha's daughter as a house servant.
Yes, I went to... I started in New Hampshire, actually, and I was on a tour, and somebody walked by and said, "Oh, she was taken to the governor's mansion." Yep. And that's where while she was in Philadelphia, I guess they started talking to her. Because, you know, Williamsville and the Underground Railroad are out of Philadelphia. And they got a hold of her, and they took her away. And it's Portsmouth. Yep. So I actually went to the African burial ground in Portsmouth.
Did you see her grave?
They did not have her grave there. That's a general burial that they had built houses over, and then they had to go and create a memorial and have a ceremony, you know, and atone for living on top of these people.
And I think that's a scenario that's played out a lot in the first.
Yes.
Including Native Americans.
Did it feel haunted? The African burial ground? I don't know. No, I wasn't there at night. It didn't feel haunted to me.
I spent a night at Wounded Knee, and I felt a little haunted.
Where's Wounded Knee?
Indian Reservation,
Oh,
Rock in South Dakota.
Okay.
And that's the scene of the last uprising, Battle of Wounded Knee in 1890.
Oh, does it feel haunted here, they say?
It's a very sacred spot.
It feels like a forest.
Yeah, it's not haunted here.
Because we don't actually know for sure if this trail was actually used or not. This is just like...
Well, none of their slaves tried to run away from Palmer. Like, they wouldn't have gone through here?
That's a great question. I used to, when I was a rookie at this, I used to tell the story that I thought 4 of the slaves did in fact escape, because the census in Sandy Spring, there's a slave museum in Sandy Spring, and as of 1850 or 60, I think, there are 4 names that are missing.
Okay.
From Palmer's home.
Okay.
And now the reality is they could have died, they could have been sold down the river, punished.
Yes.
Or they could have been manumitted. I like to think they were manumitted, but we don't know.
Okay.
But I get that question a lot, and it's a great... I'd like to say we know X number of slaves escaped, and we know they went this way. That would make my story a lot easier. The problem is we don't have a lot of empirical proof.
Okay.
So this gets back to your earlier question about the Underground Railroad. This is a metaphor. This is an allegory of a lot of stories of people. Frankly, they'd probably be following this.
Yeah. Okay. And so this is still the Antico River?
This is still the Anacostia.
Okay. Yes, they would have come if they were escaping, because the Antico River is to our right. So, yes, if there were slaves escaping in this area, they probably would have done this. So... Okay. And we're going up now. We went down. Now it's time to go up. Up, up, up. Ah. Of course I do. I think I've visited over 60 Black History sites. I need to count them, list them somewhere, share my photos with you guys. Okay, bye-bye. Good morning, good morning. How are you guys doing? Harriet Tubman was your first heroine. Couldn't read enough of her growing up. Well, you're welcome. We're actually just talking about Harriet Tubman, but she would not have been on this trail necessarily. This is closer to Josiah Henson's trail. He traveled through Sandy Spring.
So that implication.
So
And things like that.
he would have been doing this area, the Quaker area. So, hey, from Canada. So we're in Maryland. I know. You're welcome. Oh, wow, you guys. I'm trying to show you. But I see, hey, hello. Hi, Louisiana. Oh, there's a bridge.
There's some bamboo
And there's a river
near that corral.
down there.
For years I've been doing tours. I had a person from the National Zoo, and they used that.
It's another trail up there.
This could be slippery going down.
Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, it's a little slippery.
Are you familiar with the term for when slaves had mixed blood? Like if they...
What, mulatto?
Yes. Are you familiar with...
Octoroon? There's a million of them.
The first thing that you said, are you familiar with how sinister that one actually is?
No. So what's the history behind mulatto?
So the etymology, which is like the root of the word, if you think about it, it has mule in it, obviously.
Mule.
Which, you think of it as like, mule back then meant something different. It just meant like kind of like, I mean, it could be like cattle or
Stubborn.
or like stubborn and things like that, or just like kind of like, it also just meant like property.
Property. Okay.
So there's that level, and everybody usually gets that level, but this is the really messed up part. Do you know how a mule is made? Like
Oh, they're bred between a horse and a
but which is
an
the
ass?
horse? It's the horse is the man, and it's a stallion, and then the woman is the donkey. So the implication
I
is,
didn't realize that.
So the implication is that the white man was the stallion.
The white man is the stallion.
That was what their implication was when they created that word.
Mulatto.
And because...
That is deep. I never heard that. That is interesting. You guys hear that?
Also following up on that, I don't know how much you want to get into law here, but there are two huge court cases.
Yes.
With slavery. One is the Dred Scott decision.
Yes.
The other is Plessy versus Ferguson.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you both know about these, but it speaks to your point. Homer Plessy is basically 7/8 white, 1/8 black. He is on a Jim Crow streetcar, outside New Orleans in 1892. This is a fascinating story. Does this ring a bell? No? Okay. So he moves from the Jim Crow car to a white car, not a la Rosa Parks, who basically said she was tired and didn't want to move in one of her anecdotes. That's another story, probably more well known. He moves to the white car because the black car is crowded. Conductor comes by and says, "Are you white or black?" He could have lied. I probably would have lied. Being Jesus. Says, "No, I'm black." He throws him off the car, and again, his skin was such that he could have passed as a white. And we have accounts of runaway slaves. I have some pictures I can go over. Harriet Reams was one of them, who did have whiter skin, so they might have a better chance of escape. Anyway, that case ends up going all the way through the labyrinth of the court system to the U.S. Supreme Court, and sadly in 1896, it's a landmark precedent-setting case until Topeka Brown, that segregation is constitutional as long as it's separate but equal.
Wow.
And all arising from I guess it's octoroon, I think that's the term.
Yeah, 1/8. Yeah.
And pack groups get together and say, you should sue for, you should take this to case. Which is a little bit, it's a follow-up to Dred Scott. That's a little clearer. But what I love about Dred Scott, so he's a slave. He actually grew up near Nat Turner in Southampton, Virginia. They never knew each other. Ends up being a slave to a surgeon in the army. His name is Snelling. And he is his personal slave. They go to Minnesota. He lived in Missouri. Missouri becomes a slave state. That's not an issue. But he goes to the Minnesota Territory. There's no rules. And of course, the whole history of the Civil War has to do with where can we legalize slavery? Do we use the Mason-Dixon line? Et cetera, et cetera. And he is pressured by groups to sue for his freedom. He says, you're in free territory. Moreover, you are north of the Ohio River, because one of the first real laws mandating non-slave was the Northwest Ordinance in 1787. And when that territory eventually became Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Minnesota, it was ordained that all that territory would be free of slavery. So getting back to Dred Scott, so his case goes to the Supreme Court. Tawney, the school, he's from Frederick. They just renamed the school. I think they're renaming Jeb Stuart. I just saw it on the news in Virginia. It now says high school and not Jeb Stuart. Anyway, Dred Scott, his case goes to the Supreme Court. Blair, the man who found the spring in Sandy Spring, houses him for a while. It starts in the courthouse in St. Louis. He loses his case. It says there are two rulings. One is you're a slave regardless of where you are, and the irony is they say you're a slave and by definition you don't have a stand in a court of law, which is kind of a rhetorical ruling. Anyway, the interesting thing is, so he loses his case in 1857. Within a year, his owner dies, and the owner's widow frees him.
Wow.
So he's freed by circumstance, not by the court.
Interesting.
I don't know if that rings a bell, but I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
And the last story, and then we can take a vote if you want to go to spring. So people went to a lot of measures. I bet you know this. I bet you know this. You heard of Box Brown?
Yes. I've been to like 60 African American history sites or more, probably.
Do you know about Box Brown?
I learned about him in Canada.
All right. So you want to tell her about Box Brown?
Okay. Well, so the Quakers would ship shoes like from Lynn, Massachusetts. They were cobblers, and they would make shoes. And so Henry Box Brown went to a Quaker and asked him to ship him. And he did. He was shipped upside down in a rail car. How many hours? I don't remember.
2.5 days in a box.
2.5 days in a box. And he makes it to William Still's Underground Railroad office.
There he is.
Yes, that's William Still. But that's Henry Box Brown. And there were others who shipped themselves as well. But that's what the Quakers would do. They ship people.
Okay,
they ship
do you know the
shoes.
postscript to this is?
What is the postscript?
It's another fascinating story.
No, I have not.
So the man who built the box, who was a carpenter, builds another box for Brown's brother to do the same thing. Another black man or white man, I don't know who, rats on him. And I often ask groups, why would you tell on another slave or person? And the easy answer is you might get like plea bargaining.
Okay.
And we had instances where slaves, Frederick Douglass's first attempt was spoiled by another slave blowing the whistle.
Yes.
Nat Turner had an attempt. Anyway, but my point is, the carpenter, his name is White, by the way. There's some irony, and the slave is Brown.
Yes, that's a good point. I never thought of it.
And the carpenter ends up doing time just for abetting a runaway slave.
Wow.
Which is another point that Douglass was trying to make. Look how it sucks in people in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He goes from Richmond, Virginia, and it's a 2.5 day ordeal. He's probably got a heck of a headache because he's upside most of the time.
Right.
We have a guy named Tony Campbell who works at the Buttonwood Farm, a living history site up in Germantown.
Yes.
And he traced in 1996.
Tony Cohen.
Tony Cohen.
Yes,
He retraced a runaway, and he had himself mailed in a box.
He did. He told us the story.
And he didn't get a headache. He was right side up, and the box was a little bigger. But he told me, maybe you know this, he's in a boxcar on Amtrak, and they don't close the door. And if you've been on Amtrak, it's not the smoothest ride. It's not
right.
And his box is bouncing around. He had visions of bouncing into the Pine Barrens.
Oh, my God.
He went from Trenton to New York City.
Wow.
He's a fascinating...
yeah, Tony Cohen is amazing.
And
have
he
you
ended up going
seen
all the
him?
way to Canada.
Yeah, you should go to Button Living Farm.
Yeah.
So he did Oprah's Underground Railroad experience, her slavery experience.
No, I live in Germantown, but I've never been there.
Okay.
Oh, you should go.
It's online.
So this is the Anacostia River.
Anacostia, which right here, probably wasn't a tennis ball in there. This is due north-south.
Okay, so this is due north-south.
It winds around, and it's going to resurface at the spring. Now, my question is, do you want to go to the spring and get wet and take another 40 minutes, or do you want to turn around?
We can go. You want to? It's up to you.
Okay, what time is it?
I have no idea. Somebody know the time?
It's 11:12.
11:12.
Go
Okay.
to the spring.
All right, let's do the spring.
that's
So
all right.
Josiah Henson had an Underground Railroad trail. He would have done this area, right? He worked with the Quakers to go to Canada.
Josiah Henson actually escaped from Kentucky.
Yes, but he ran a line to help people escape after he got there.
Yes, he did. And he founded Dawn, a utopia
Yes,
community in Ontario.
because his brother was here with the Bill Dawsons. He bought his brother from them.
Have you been to Bill Dawson's house?
I have. I have to go inside. I think it's open today. I might try and get by there.
You'll see a guy with a lot of tattoos. They always call him fruit flies, but maybe this. His part is the people never died, and he works there in the winter.
Okay.
If you see him, call him fruit flies. I know what you're talking about.
Okay. We're going to Sandy Spring, you guys. And the mosquitoes are out.
Fewer mosquitoes in December.
Huh?
That's another argument for winter. Fewer mosquitoes.
Yeah, I don't know how they survived all the mosquitoes and insects. Northern Territory, Australia. Hello, Australia. Welcome. Oh, goodness. So, we're going to Sandy Spring now.
Often have ghost scaffolds or Google, that's perfect area.
And the trail is pretty much gone. Hi, Australia. So, there's no trail. We're just walking now. Or maybe it's a horseback riding trail. I'm not really sure. We're going to Sandy Spring now. Too funny. They eat me up. You're welcome. Thanks for joining. Thanks for all the hearts. Thanks for sharing. Hi. How are you guys doing? Lavender oil? Oh, I have plenty of lavender oil. That keeps mosquitoes away. I'm gonna, too funny. I'm gonna have to do that. Okay. Let's see, we got... Show you guys where we are.
Takes off, and then probably like the start project in the tires or shoulder.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that ironic?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but they had the buck.
Hey guys. Marigold flowers are a natural repellent. Oh, okay. Have to look for some marigold flowers. I don't know what those look like. It is great exercise. The national park. It starts at Woodlawn Manor. It is. It's a horseback riding trail for the national park. Where did the Scaves escape to? They went toward Philadelphia. They would go from Maryland to Philadelphia. Oh, you wear the plants around your neck. Oh, thank you for sharing that. I never knew that.
So, by the way, we're near the spring.
Uh-huh.
This field has been leased from us,
Uh-huh.
Maryland Park and Planning, for whom I work, by Sandy Spring School. And you can see the deer fencing. It's actually expanded, I noticed.
Oh, that's deer
They're going
fencing?
to plant crops and serve them in their cafeteria.
They're going to plant crops. Oh.
Local, whatever the term is.
They missed the planting season.
I'm grateful they mowed this.
Oh, yes, I am grateful they mowed it. I wouldn't want to be walking. I wouldn't want to be walking over there.
Earlier in the season, I take a shortcut across it. And after that, you guys will see.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so can you imagine having to walk through this as an enslaved person? And this is mowed. So they mowed this for the trail. But, yeah. They would be going through underbrush. Do you have water to drink? Well, they're by us. There's a river. I am sweating. Because it's a hike. And it's humid. Oh, those flowers smell good. What are those?
I don't know. They do smell good.
Yeah. They smell wonderful. Yeah, I'm going to lose some calories today, I would say. Oh, there's a bumblebee. Oh, wow. Oh, boy. The slaves didn't wear shoes. Some of them had shoes. You'd be swearing? Yeah. Be out there in that, I would. Can you guys see? Sandy Spring. A spring or a town. It is a spring and a town. It's an unincorporated part of Maryland. So there's a school. Oh, okay.
So, here it is. Here's the spring.
Oh, wow.
Now, what's interesting, we live on McSeany Avenue. I live in White Oak, Silver Spring. The street we lived on is called McSeany Avenue.
Oh, really?
And our home was one of the first, it's a subdivision of 62 homes. It was a working farm, and my guess is that family, I don't remember any owners being called McSeany, but there was a mill, it's called Burnt Mills Hills, and there was a mill at one point, in fact, on the Antico River, which is a lot bigger than what you just said. So here's your spring.
Oh, this is the spring?
If you're stuck with it now, they put you in I didn't warn you.
What? Well, how's it? Where is the water? What's the source? This is so weird. And there's steps?
It's underground.
The spring is underground. Wow.
Like I said, don't be disappointed. It's not
Wow.
But about 5 years ago when I started here, the water where you're standing used to run over, and now you can see it resurfaces, so it goes underground and resurfaces there.
Okay.
But this is your source. This is Sandy Spring. I live in Silver Spring, and this is a heck of a lot prettier than the little acorn. I think it's East West Highway, full of trash, and that's Silver Spring.
Oh, I never knew there was a
I
spring.
think it's a different spring than what Montgomery Blair found on horseback. I think that's actually close to where the high school is.
Oh, wow. I don't know if you guys can see it. It says Sandy
So over
Spring,
time,
1745.
you can't see surrounding us, there was more water, but they've drawn from this aquifer.
Wow. Good to see you too, Evelyn.
Scout Troop, I think it's 1745. That's not the year. That's the Scout Troop number. Put this
Oh, Scouting Troop number.
shroud over it.
Okay.
Project, and they put in the split rail fence.
And the stairs. Okay, well, you guys screenshot it. You take a picture. Thank you. Take a picture.
And if you kept going, and you can do this more easily by car, you kept going this way north, by the way, you would get to the Sandy Spring Meeting House.
Yes, I went last year. And they had people walking to this spring. I didn't walk to here, though.
It's still used. It's the oldest continually used Quaker meeting house.
The oldest continually used Quaker meeting house.
There's also a huge tree. Don't tell my boss. I've never been there. If you went up here to the right, there's a huge...
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. Okay, do it again. Take a picture. I'm sorry.
How many people are listening to?
Okay. 54 on right now. And let's see. 3,325 so far. Yeah.
Does anybody complain? They can't throw tomatoes through that thing, can they?
No. They can do fake tomatoes.
Have questions? I'm
okay, do you guys have any questions? You have questions?
Because I can...
You have questions?
I never know how much to say, partly because you guys know a lot of this. But
please do share. Yeah, don't go by me. Yeah, share, go ahead and share.
Another story to share.
Okay, great.
Because we don't do much talking on the way back, because you guys are tired of me. But I also have...
No, we're not tired. You give us all your stories.
We were talking about people escaping. And here's an example of what extremes they would go to. This is Ellen Craft, who was a woman, but you can see she's dressed as a man. She pretended to have an injury, and her future husband posed, get this, as her personal slave. And she was able to escape. So she cut her hair short and wore spectacles and a Lincoln type hat in order to do it. So that's a fascinating, and this is also...
They said, did this lead to an underground bunker?
And she wrote a book called Running 1,000 Miles for Freedom, or The Escape of William and Ellen Craft from Slavery, 1860. So later on, she
said, you're a wonderful host. They're enjoying the history.
Okay, and tell them I'm glad they don't have tomatoes to throw through the line. And I love this story. I often ask my students, here's another example. So here is Maria Weems. They talk about her in the barn. Here she is dressed up as a man. Not only as a man, look at her outfit. She's an actual conductor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we use the term Underground Railroad and conductors, and here she is. And her story was also in William Still's book.
How many slaves are really from America that were allegedly from Africa? Who knows? Nobody kept track of that.
I know the estimate is about 40,000 slaves ultimately escaped. Maryland's an interesting state because it had the same number, had 60,000 enslaved people the eve of the Civil War and 60,000 free blacks.
Really?
And obviously free whites.
Hmm.
So Maryland, I guess that's another reason we do the tour here. Maryland is a pivotal mid-Atlantic state, and it abuts the Mason-Dixon line. And I kept talking about 1850. You know why I kept talking about 1850? You know how things changed then? I bet you do. Do you know what took place that totally made things harder? I think you do. For a runaway slave.
The Fugitive Slave Act.
The Fugitive Slave Act.
Okay, yes. Good job.
So the Fugitive Slave Act, you probably know the story, but all of a sudden the Dred Scott cases and the free and slave states doesn't matter. Now there is no more Mason-Dixon. Well, the Mason-Dixon line is actually the border between the United States and Canada. So if you're a runaway slave...
The Mason-Dixon line now, today?
Moved north.
It moved...
Mason-Dixon line used to be it originally started, Mason-Dixon were surveyors for Lord Baltimore, and the original line was about 6 miles north of Williamsport, I think it is, Maryland, on the Potomac. And that line kept going further west, and it was a demarcation between free and slave states.
Now it's still the line.
Oh.
It's still the line.
Like if you
it's
drive
still called the Mason-Dixon.
Okay. Is there a marker there?
There are various markers
if you go to if you drive, have you ever driven up through Frederick, up through Hagerstown, and then into Pennsylvania?
No.
Okay, if you drive up through Hagerstown, up through Cumberland, or sorry, no, you don't actually go through Cumberland, you go through Hancock up into central Pennsylvania. There's just it just says like Mason-Dixon line, welcome to Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
There's
okay.
It's just like the line.
There's
Okay.
a book, I can't remember the name of it, a guy followed as much as he could the original Mason-Dixon line, which starts in Lewes, Delaware, which is I think the one end of the ferry to Cape May, goes around south of Delaware. Delaware is technically a free state. It's kind of weird. Then it wraps around Maryland, and then it becomes the Maryland-Pennsylvania border. Then, as we get more states, it becomes the Ohio River.
Okay.
So I always love this picture. When little kids asking about Harriet Tubman, I said,
Yes.
if this woman showed up at your house as a sitter, you'd probably pay attention. Just look at her face.
She means
Talk about
business.
It looks like she's ready to get down to business.
Oh,
This is a
yes.
woman who's only about 5'2". She has these migraines. She has sleep issues, and at great risk comes back about 12 times, and ends up freeing 70 people. Not all of her family, but part of her family.
Yes.
I was kind of hoping that maybe it's a work in progress. As you know, at the museum, there's still more. I think they're gathering. And when they opened it, they had a woman dressed up as Harriet. They've since changed the film. It was too much of the opening ceremonies, but this woman portraying her is speaking to the audience. Now it's a little more a little more inclusive.
Okay.
So I don't show this to the youngsters, but this is Gordon, who is in a lot of textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
I usually screen it with the teachers of the little kids. He joined the Union Army in Louisiana late in the war. And speaking of the Civil War, Harriet Tubman, I'm sure you know this, helped the North win a battle by the Combahee River outside of Charleston. She was basically a spy. And then, get this, Civil War ends, 13, 14, 15 minutes. She is thrown from a moving train, breaks her arm about 10 years after the Civil War in the North.
Oh, I never heard that story. Oh, my goodness, no.
A lot of people think things were a lot better in the North. The term Jim Crow actually started in the North. There's a great book by a professor named C. Van Woodward, taught at Yale for many years, and it's called just that, the Strange Career of Jim Crow. And he makes a point of saying Jim Crow, as in segregation, actually began in the North. And New York City, at the eve of the Civil War, had more slaves than the state of South Carolina, which is pretty amazing statistic. Now, whether they're slaves or house servants, or
they called them servants, but they were enslaved people. That was just a northern term because they had them in their houses.
Slave trafficking, which I went to. There's an Underground Railroad Museum in Cincinnati called the Freedom Center. I learned there are some amazing number, like 20 million currently enslaved people. Whether it's sex trafficking, they just closed a parlor in Germantown or something. They usually
there was 3 in Silver Spring, I think, recently.
What?
Yeah,
so
they
there's
just.
Still sex
It was guised as a 3 different massage parlors, and it was a sex trafficking ring.
Yeah.
Oh wow, wow.
So those have closed.
Yeah, there was just
No,
a
I
court
didn't know
case
that.
in, I think it was North or South Dakota. I just saw on Twitter. I haven't checked it out yet, but supposedly they just sentenced a man to death for being gay.
Wow.
They sentenced him death to being gay?
But I didn't check if it was like if he committed another crime and he happened to be gay.
Oh my God. Okay.
Who was killed for being gay.
And then, but I think I have to check the story. But the judge said, "But you'll like it because you're gay." In jail.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's some
Okay.
All right, so here's another story.
That's
I think
crazy.
I can say the story. I used to hold back on this, but more and more African Americans have praised me of this, and I'd always thought it all along. I talked about what a life Douglas had. He ends up in Baltimore twice. He stands up to an overseer, William Covey, which is unheard of. Neither Covey or Douglas are punished. His first attempt is disclosed. He ends up back in Baltimore. Baltimore story is also great because he learns to read there from him. He also, like Tom Sawyer in the whitewashing fence thing, would trick people at the wharfs. He worked as a caulker, put this fabric between the planks, because they were wooden ships, and from other workers he would learn. He also bought the Columbia Orator at a young age, which is a compilation of speeches. What I love about Douglas is so many stories. So he gives his first speech in Nantucket, and he's like Nixon at a press conference. He's a nervous wreck. He gets through it. And a few months later, one of the white abolitionists, like Garrison or somebody, who's working for the same cause, says, you need to speak more like a darky, because people don't think you were a slave.
Wow.
And Douglas, being Douglas, stands up, tall as he was, said, I will do no such thing. I am a learned man, and I know how to speak. But the irony is, the people who were working with it, they thought that the audience couldn't believe he had been a slave, because he was so educated, which is one of the reasons why he writes his book. But in the process, he's a marked man. So when he writes the first book in 1845, he names names except for Anna, the woman who helped him. I should include Anna because you're women here. She was the one who made his papers, his seaman papers. He then goes to England because he's a marked man, because his story is now. He's the first one, until Still publishes these books, accounts after the Civil War, to name names. So he goes through Canada, he goes to England by way of Ireland, and he witnesses the potato famine. Realizes there are other tragedies. There's a great collection of Transatlantic, I think it's called, a book about this. And then he goes to England and an English abolitionist group where they, by the way, freed slaves by Act of Parliament. No Civil War, Act of Parliament, even though they did have civil wars. And his freedom is bought for $800. But my point is, if you look at his facial features, it leads people to speculate that Anthony, his master, was his father.
Okay.
It's like Jefferson all over again. You've read all the
I've
stuff
never
about
seen
Jefferson.
a photo
If you
of...
look at his nose,
Yes.
not to sound like I'm an anthropologist.
No.
It's a
I agree.
Caucasian
Yes,
nose.
it is a Caucasian nose.
Ish.
And he says he's half white. And actually, they darkened him because he's fair. He's like Kenneth.
This is a black
Kenneth
and
B.
white photo, so it's
No, but Kenneth B. Morris, his great grandson, is a fair man, and he looks exactly like Frederick Douglass, but he's fair. And they said that they darkened him in the photos because he was actually fair.
right, which leads to the.
Yeah.
And they didn't do DNA testing, but too bad. But it's pretty likely.
Well,
And
they
his
could
features
probably
indeed,
do
in
it
fact,
on Kenneth B. Morris. He and his mother are the last survivors. Well, no, Kenneth B. Morris does have children.
Well, it was an African-American woman on my tour. This gets back to my point, and it's a great point, learning from your audience, from you guys. She said, you should talk more openly about this because most people accept that as when you think of his features, shown in this doctored picture, obviously, but twice he should have been punished and isn't. Which happens to coincide with now part of the tour of Monticello, is a room never mentioned in the past where Sally stayed.
Yes,
And
I
they
went
built
last
Mulberry
weekend.
Grove, the slave cabin.
Yeah.
Used to be just footprints. Now they built the cabin.
Yeah, I scoped it last weekend. The Sally Hemings exhibit.
No, I was thinking about something else.
Oh, go ahead. What are you thinking about?
Now I was thinking about Sojourner Truth,
Oh, yes.
and one of the things that her we were recently looking at her speeches, and she did the opposite of Frederick Douglass. So a lot of times when she went and spoke to northern white women at the suffragist conventions, she would intentionally change her speech so that they believed that she had actually been freed and things like that. But if you actually read into her speech, she uses some of the most advanced literary techniques.
Yes.
And she was just an amazing woman. And
Really, I didn't know that.
Dumb it down for the audience.
yeah, and there's even
Wow.
parts where she alludes to the fact that she's dumbing it down for the white women.
Oh, interesting.
Because honestly, historically back then, white women only got to go to only got to go to 8th grade, so they weren't allowed to do so. And then that's the other reason that Harriet Jacobs, her Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, was written at an 8th grade reading level, because she actually wrote her book for the Northern WASPs to read, so that they could then tell their husbands and people that could vote against it, vote against the Fugitive Slave Act, or vote for abolition, because other people like Frederick Douglass were trying to appeal to white men, but then they realized, why don't we? And then I guess Harriet Jacobs was like, no one's trying to appeal to white women. And so that's why she wrote her book. And she wrote her book surrounding predominantly motherhood and Christianity, things that were very important to the Victorian WASP woman.
Okay.
Things that they could connect with.
And the Grimke sisters, Sarah and Angelina married an abolitionist. They
so
spoke
nervous 'cause
actively. They spoke actively about slavery. So there were women involved. Definitely.
And a lot of the women that were suffragists, this is something that a lot of people don't know, women that were suffragists worked on abolitionist newspapers, and then once once they abolished slavery, the women were like, all right, so do you guys want to help us get our rights? And a lot of the African American men who were now freed were like, nah. So
Including Frederick Douglass, sadly. He was approached by a lot of women's groups.
No, he participated in the
he did,
suffrage
but a lot of
movement.
them hoped he would do more. And his answer was, let's get what we can right now.
yeah, that was a lot of them. They were like, we should just be happy with what we got.
It sounds sexist, but maybe his defense, he said, is being realistic. I'd be careful because I have women here. So.
Because he's at the what is the Women's Museum? The National Women's Museum. They have this exhibit about Frederick Douglass's participation in the suffragette movement. Yeah.
I'm saying after the amendments were passed, while he was pushing for that, he would be approached by a lot of these women frontrunners to help their case, and he would say, I think we're not there yet.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Douglas, Anna dies, he then remarries Helen Pitts, who's a white woman.
Yes.
And a lot of people, of course, were upset back then.
Yeah, his children.
Jack Johnson, the boxer, bringing white women to his country. Of course, our president pardoned him. One of the good things done, I think, pardoned Jack Johnson.
That was like when the Queen just recently knighted Alan Turing.
Yeah.
Like, he's been dead for years. Do you know who Alan Turing is?
No.
He's the man who he cracked the Nazi code.
Oh.
There's a whole great movie about it, but he was gay. So they hid it in history because he was gay, and he got like put on like basically like their equivalent of like reconditioning, like therapy back then. He had to take
they
pills
tried to recondition him?
To his death.
which led to his death because he was put on pills that he didn't need to take because they said he needs to become straight again. And
Oh my God.
He ended up killing himself.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Without him, he was the one who realized that at the end of every message they have that salute to, obviously, the leader of the Nazis.
Okay.
And he was like, so if we use that, if they use the end of it, they were like, he was like, they're always going to say hail and then his name.
Yeah.
I don't like saying his name, sorry.
Right. No problem.
But, and so he was like, so if that way we at least have like 6 or 7 letters every message that we already know.
Okay.
So, he cracked it, and yes, but he ended up killing himself, and it wasn't until, I think, was it like last year?
You're welcome.
The Queen of England knighted him posthumously, even though he's been dead for like 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, a lot of things happen 50 or 100 years after people are gone.
They try to make everything okay.
Yeah, they're like, oh, let's tell the truth now. It's been 100 years.
Like this statue thing, yes? I don't get that.
What?
Backlash about Confederate statues. There was an instance that they had a statue to a generic in honor of Montgomery County rebels who died in the Civil War. It wasn't a specific person.
Yeah, it was in Rockville.
In Rockville by the courthouse.
But it was a Confederate statue.
Well, it's a generic Confederate.
Well, it doesn't matter. Any Confederate statue should not be standing. I mean, why do we have statues to people who lost the war, and the people who won the war, we don't have statues for them? What happened?
I just think there should be some context. So anyway, the guy who runs the Jubal early bought it, and it's up on a bluff now in the clear.
Yeah, it's like, isn't it in Poolsville next to White's Ferry?
It's next to the clear.
You're welcome.
That's okay.
Well, there's also a difference. And this was like addressed a lot more recently too. There were Confederate statues that were built during the Confederacy, and then there were Confederate statues that were secretly funded by white supremacist groups during the 1920s to 1960s.
A lot more were built after the Civil War.
Yeah.
Oh, be careful. Yeah.
Those are the ones that definitely are not good, because they were.
None of them are good. I mean, why aren't there statues of Union soldiers all over the place who were heroes in the war? Like, where?
In Gettysburg.
Oh, Gettysburg. Okay.
And be quiet. We're talking. Well, I think Richmond did a smart thing. I may get in trouble for this, but first there were 3 on Monument Avenue.
Yep.
The actual part was Jackson, Lee, and I think it was I don't remember the other one. And then you have Arthur Ashe.
In Richmond? Arthur Ashe is in Richmond? Okay.
Well, that's a good, of course, while they're building.
Yeah, you can see the scope from Sally Hemings.
White guys, and the white guys didn't want a black person.
It's in my replays.
But I think it's a good compromise. I don't think those statues are being removed.
Yeah, I heard that they added people to the Monument Row in Richmond because they were like, see, it's not just Confederate soldiers. We have other people too.
Yeah, let's put up Arthur Ashe. Okay. That doesn't address the Civil War issue, but okay. Let's go present day.
I mean,
Well,
you were talking earlier about how Maryland was divided and definitely like Maryland almost seceded, but
Maryland almost succeeded, really?
seceded because at that point, right, it was like towards the end, or like kind of like the middle ends of the war, Maryland tried to secede, but Lincoln declared martial law and threw some of the state representatives in jail so that they couldn't vote to secede because he didn't want to lose the capital to the of the country to the south. So he technically that was very illegal, but obviously it was a good move.
I was always nervous about being attacked less from the south than from the north. If that had happened, it would be more vulnerable.
Oh, that's good to know.
And that's actually also why West Virginia exists.
Okay.
Because it all used to be
Virginia.
But then West Virginia was like, no, we don't want slavery. So West Virginia was created because, I mean, that's obviously a very simplified version. But.
Right.
So Lincoln was happy to see that happen. Well, they were mostly farmers and miners. And they, Andrew Johnson, the poor guy, ended up trying to follow Lincoln's footsteps. That was his stance about slavery. He said, it wasn't that he was this
We're in Sandy Spring.
person. He said farmer slavery is the rich tidewater people on slavery. He tried to pose as a term that's kind of misused.
Okay.
Does the crowd of 1,000 have any more questions?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys have any more questions? So we're going back to the Antico River. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so we're going to show, there's a barn that's a museum about the Quakers. We're going to do that. And then there's the mansion. How long is the walk?
What we were doing today is about 3 miles round trip.
3 miles round trip. Okay.
So if you would recommend an anti-slavery slave account, would you contact yourself?
I just like to ask
You're welcome. What was that other question? Oh, Boy Scouts are coming. So, Boy Scouts are on a hike.
Don't go that way, that's closed. That's why the rocks are there. Go this way, please. Thank you. Oh.
Hi.
Hello. You going the right way?
Hi.
All right, good. 2 more days, we'll be there. We're prepared. You probably know this. The spring was helped protected by a scout troop. You may know that. You'll see it at the spring.
Okay, Scouts of America. I stand corrected.
I was a Boy Scout until my mother discovered it smelled like smoke. Until my colleagues took me to get America hiking, smoking outside the church. So
Oh no!
that ended the first class that I was in. But we do get a lot of scouts.
I would be Girl Scout, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it mostly because Boy Scouts were these cool scouts that go hiking and go on all these adventures, and they were like, here's a patch for sewing. And I was like, I don't want to sew, I want to hike.
Oh,
So that's interesting. So you, of all the stories, my wife will tell his mom.
this, yeah, you pay $8 to take the trail. There's a museum. I'm trying to turn this around. So there's a museum. I'm going to take you guys to the museum. I'll scope down, take a break, go to the museum, and we'll show you the Quaker version of slavery. So it's a Quaker museum. Yes, $8, and it includes the museum. And the house is $3. Oh, God.
Anyway, I make a point, Justin doesn't, of how important the women were in that story.
No, I'm not doing it. We're going downhill now. Have to kind of look at where I'm stepping. Well, I can't talk through my mouth. So. Okay.
Almost there.
All right. So it's shorter going back.
It's shorter going back because we don't
Yes.
talk as much. I don't babble as much.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, she's going back. She went to Yale. She's one of the first women at Yale. That was amazing.
Oh.
That's one of the audiences that was following later. And they're a little entitled to the women's organization, but the men. And she shows this legal pad.
Yeah, I have water.
Showing that as a privilege.
Okay.
Right. Even though she's already been a good writer. That sort of dispels it all this sort of simplistic idea. Oh, it's legal. But unfortunately, you have people like former first ladies and rock stars.
You lost all the comments. You did. Why? Go out and come back.
I'm just jealous because I have 2 books on my computer and I don't have the discipline to put them into the thing. But my smart wife one time I said, "Hey, how do you do this?" She said, "That's a good question." And she said, "It's called deadlines." She said, "You need to be told good."
Yes, I have these amazing ideas. It's not until I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm already.
Oh, thank you for the super heart. Mommy.
So it's not until
Thank you. I'm trying to read it. I gotta put my. Oh.
I'm in graduate school, University of Connecticut.
Is he talking to me? He's talking to the young lady straight ahead. See? She's writing an article for the newspaper. Yeah.
Talk about red ink. I gave it to my editor. Put this something terrible like a sanding and sanding. And it's full of red ink, which is like, it's called the inverted triangle. You got to get the stuff in the first paragraph.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for hanging with on this hike. Okay. All right. Okay. No. Okay. What's that? What is it?
Robin's egg.
That's a robin's egg?
What's left of it looks like they didn't.
Let's see. The temperature, it's in the 70s, but it's very humid. It's a swampy area.
It's a wet heat.
It's, so, and I'm sweating. It's 71, but it's a humid 71, or 70s. Tomorrow's supposed to be in the 80s, but typical DMV area weather. It's all over the place. So,
I would say
you do it out a long summer, and my wife, more so than me, way more than me, can't stand it. She's from outside New York City. exactly over the house. Go to Santa Fe and some places actually not well, we live south of it.
Who's coaching me? I have an exercise coach on here. Who's my exercise coach?
In hindsight, I wish we rented a house.
You're 8 years old? Oh, amazing. Yeah, there are landmarks on the trail. I'll show you one when we come to another one. I'm gonna drink water when we get back, guys. Thank you for the tips, though.
I didn't know. I was like, okay, it's a beach, whatever. And my guy was like, no. Huntington Beach. Yeah, it's more 15 San Diego.
Okay. Here. Coming to a marker.
It's actually, I actually think it was like one of the beaches. I'll be like Hawaii.
See? They're markers.
This is the skunk cabbage, another exhibit for your crowd.
Skunk cabbage?
You could actually eat this.
Oh, really?
That doesn't sound very appealing.
No.
And it probably wasn't around the winter, but you do what you have to do.
Oh my God! Skunk cabbage, guys. You eat skunk cabbage. Okay. More of the Antico River. Notice. Follow trail. Trail.
It used to be a shortcut, and a person, I will not mention the guide, the group kind of mutinied on the guide, and they went on their own back.
Oh,
They
no.
took this shortcut. Unfortunately, in those days we had since we share the property with the park police, they used to have helicopters, medevacs, and they almost got landed on by a helicopter.
Oh, no.
That's why they closed it. They don't fly them there anymore because they're attacked.
Oh, wow.
But just in case, it's rather obvious.
Okay. Well, I'm glad there's not a lot of horse manure. Oh, well, that was good. I was worried. We're in Maryland. Oh my goodness. It is, isn't it? Interactive.
One of the most asked questions on the old tours was who go inside the house. So now we bought out the wedding people to have ownership of the house, but there's not a lot.
No.
I talk more about the history and Palmer family than the art. There's not a lot to talk. And it's pretty empty. And of course, if you want to use it like Lincoln Center Cottage as a venue for I'm the first speaker.
Oh, okay. More people coming. Hi.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
All righty.
By the way, Lex is in charge now.
Who charges?
If you have any questions, ask him. So here's the squirrels are busy this winter, but you know, getting back to we're talking about the winter, there probably would be nuts.
Okay.
In the middle of the winter. This is easier because it's so soft. It's sort of hard work, but there will be chestnuts and acorns.
Okay.
Not probably high on a lot of lists, but what you gotta do. We have accounts of runaways going for days without food. It's like fasting every 3 1 hour food. can't go very long without water. That's why the whole water thing is huge.
Yes.
I think so much of our history is water. It's river based.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming along. We're going back to the barn, which is a museum. There's no hell to bathe. There's no real hell there. Hey there. Oh my God, I can't even talk. Looking what?
And I can drop off.
I don't know. How much further they want to know?
Who asked that question?
He said,
Who asked that question?
He wants to know who asked that question.
Okay, you're in trouble. But to answer your question, we're 10 minutes away.
10 minutes.
Easy for you to say you're not even walking with us.
He said, easy for you to say you're not even walking. They said, are we there yet? He said, if you ask where the next McDonald's is, you're fired.
This is not a complaint. I just wanted to know, to try to rephrase the question.
Yeah, the better question my parents always would say was trying to, where are we? They'd answer that one. But
Okay, where are we? You were just about to say that. Where's the next McDonald's? A Coke machine. No, there's no Coke machine here.
yeah, we didn't call it underground the first time. Have you been there?
Yeah.
Oh, but the pool was
You lost 10 pounds watching us.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was funny.
No, I don't think so.
He was the guy who owned this modeled after him, or Ferguson came was modeled after him, right? She kind of got angry. Because apparently, and then I looked it up, and apparently the man who owned Hearst Castle was actually alive when Ferguson came out, and he hated it. He just painted him in a really bad light.
Well, he wasn't really a saint.
He wasn't, but he had some like weird quirks in that, especially back then, he employed women and paid them equal wages even in the 1920s.
It's about 3 miles, 3.5 miles. Where's the trail? Oh. Whew. Oh, I think we're almost back, guys. I see.
Finishing at my school, Christmas Twins, my former school was there.
We're coming up.
There when she was there, but speaking of her, Saturday.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, she was kidnapped and then joined this revolution. Similar to the well, she went to the school, she met the English teacher. She knew at the same school. And they're living together.
4 hours away? Wow, that's a drive. This is 20 minutes from me.
They kind of
20-minute drive.
they have like softening seasons for people to park. Yeah, probably. I mean, it seems like they have a couple of others. Their name.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. What's your name?
In California, a weird time. There's a Jimmy Jones thing. People kill themselves. Lenin gets shot. The mayor and part of the milk gets shot. It was weird.
Well, that's like the funny thing is that so many people say, no, dangerous. And I mean, like for my generation, where they're like, it's so dangerous for you guys to grow up in this. I'm like, you grew up in the 70s. There were...
Okay, so these are Heritage Days, and they're like 40 African American heritage sites that are open today and tomorrow from 12 to 4. And I'm going to try and scope what I can. So it's free. You come out here and it's free to go to all the museums and everything, except for the hike you had to pay for.
While on the runway, we commit to mass hits. You can help the trails clear.
Oh boy. So over there's the barn ahead. That's where we're going to go. I don't know. Museum is free today. Site was part of slavery. And we'll find out once we get inside the barn. He's going to talk about the history. He'll share it with us. So there's the barn. That's a museum. That's where we're headed.
One of the things that we learned was about like during the Vietnam War, that everybody knew there was a big house that was kind of like sort of where they got this
it's just the three of us.
And things like that, and everybody imagines that those people like picnics from Woodstock and to that place,
because of the weather, because it's raining or wet.
Who would come back and be like, we're not fighting for anything. Why are we over this?
What we never realized was that the average Vietnamese could care less whether it's capitalist or communist. They just want to work their right side. Okay, now you can tell your people we are there, so stop asking them what's up.
We're here. We arrived.
It's door to nowhere.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you know that?
What? The door to nowhere?
Yeah, from the window.
The door to nowhere.
I don't know. No, I don't know that.
All right, so it's a farm, and they have animals, including horses, pigs, goats, cattle. And this will make more sense when we go inside, but it's a little deceptive because this was not a parking lot. This would have been a field like that. And by the way, they grew the same thing then.
Okay.
People often think they grew cotton and tobacco, and they didn't. But they would run the hay out through those doors. That's why it looks like doors to nowhere.
Oh.
He was very smart about
Okay.
time motion.
Okay.
Like Kroc and Henry Ford.
Okay.
He's very sensitive saving on work. would run in. If you've ever seen a hay bale, they're big and they're heavy. It's easier to shove it out the window to the animals to be where we are than carry it out to.
Okay.
Sleepwalker tonight now.
All right.
We talk a lot about Pennsylvania. It's called the Keystone State. There's the Keystone, pulling this archway together.
Yes.
This was rebuilt starting 4 years ago by a local architect named Moths, who lives in Olney, with grant money from, I have to say this because I hate paying tolls anyway, part of the revenue from the interconnector supported the rebuilding of this. So if you look carefully, some of the stones that are darker have been replaced. And when we go inside, some of the timbers, mostly chestnut, which is hard to get nowadays. If you'll notice here how it's been re-ordered.
Yes, yes.
So this was part of the rehabilitation process.
Okay.
And the other good news is, you'd be glad to know, there used to be a huge wasp nest, and they took it down. That's what that became.
Oh, okay.
What's your hit? You don't have to watch it. You might watch it. I usually tell people when I smack my own head.
Okay.
Hello. Hello. This is one of William Palmer's workers here. Just kidding. Just kidding. I don't put your spot. So you're in where the animals would have been kept. We're sort of going through it in reverse order. So he had about 12 horses for the fields. And over here was where he had 2 of the better treated horses for his rounds as a doctor.
Okay.
So this was all animals, and we talked about saving on labor. They would run the hay, the fodder out through those openings, and when we go up to the top floor, you'll see what looks like an elevator shaft. They would run the food through that.
That's interesting.
Reinforcing his idea of, time motion studies. And this, they didn't discover till they rebuilt it. And this is where they would store. It was like an old days refrigerator.
Oh, this is an old age refrigerator?
So they uncovered this, including about 50 bottles of wine.
Oh, really? Wow.
I don't know if that age wine is better or worse than, talking about wine aging. This is 100 plus years, so it's probably vinegar. But they didn't know this was here, but it's covered by the...
So what time period did he own this farm?
So this barn was finished in 1832 originally.
Okay.
It's actually a cornerstone on the west side of this. And it was built with slave and free labor.
Okay.
Along with a guy named Isaac Holland. I don't know which direction he came. There's a red brick store on the corner here.
Yes.
He used to live there. So some of Holland's and Palmer's slaves and free people built this.
And how many people stayed on the farm approximately? They wanted to know.
As I said, he had 14 slaves at one point and then more, but he also had free labor.
Okay.
And he owned about 850 acres.
850 acres.
It's about 50 football fields. I usually talk about football fields because people can better
Maryland.
imagine that context.
Oh, what part of Maryland are we in, north or south?
We're in north central Maryland.
North central Maryland.
So we're on a blog here. These guys have got a newspaper reporter and a blog, so it's a lot of pressure. And we've been live all the time, right?
Yes.
Did I burp or?
No, you're good. He is famous.
So, wait. So that means how many people now know that I'm 180 years old?
You're 180 years old?
It's good with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You'd age well.
I'm sleeping formaldehyde.
We're in Maryland.
Good. We like
Yeah.
that. What's that James Taylor song where they covered somebody in ice? And they fell into an ice and they, according to the song, brought him back to life. Sorry, I like James Taylor because I went to
I like James Taylor too. I just
Right,
don't know
let's do
that
the next
one.
floor.
This is not a stop on the Underground Railroad. This is the plantation farm of a Quaker person who owned slaves. And it's a museum now. It's a Quaker museum on slavery. It's the Quaker version.
Probably. It's a fascinating story. And, that leads to a great question I'm often asked and gets to your question. My guess is, in part because I'm an idealist and a romantic historian, slaves hid in this barn.
Slaves hid in the barn.
Slaves probably hid in the...
Okay.
2/3 of this land was woodland.
Yes.
So probably hid there, and I'm guessing Palmer might have known that.
Okay,
We don't
so
have any tangible proof, but given his religious views and philosophy, I'm guessing that was the reality.
okay.
So this is on this side. There are 4 ongoing films. This is about a group of African Americans.
30 miles from me.
Talking about escape.
Oh, okay.
Lots of folks trying to run over and kids got caught. If we get caught, we so south. Besides, I'm
Sit down if you want.
Oh, are you sure? Thank you.
suppose I take me and get over there to Baltimore. What you expect I see there? Mighty lost in
It's
this
also
big
interesting
crowd.
because, of course,
Nobody was
Douglas
very
is in
much.
Baltimore, so they talk a lot about going to
You might
Baltimore.
could find shelter for a spell with some freed colors. Might even put some victuals in your stomach working on the docks, because you're strong. And they always need a hand. Maybe nobody from this here spread the notion, but they got slave captains trolling everywhere. No. You need somebody to fix you up some freedom papers. Good enough to fool them, too.
So that's what Anna did. Anna Douglas made papers for him.
There's plenty done already done it. Many folks done escaped to Baltimore, here in Pennsylvania, and even Canada. You just need to ponder on it.
Push forward. You don't talk about moving to Canada.
Which, when you think about it, the difference between here and getting to Pennsylvania prior to 1850 versus after 1850, how much further it is geographically, and that's what they're talking about. So they're talking about after the Fugitive Slave Act. And there's a timeline we can show you.
Okay.
Even though we have
They
the
want to
view
know
on.
if that's a hologram.
There's a projector.
It's a projector that's tucked in there. I don't think it's a hologram,
Okay.
but it is unusual that they use the existing wall.
Yes.
Don't get the sweat, please, on my... I'm lactating.
You're fine. I think we're all drenched at this point.
It was a long
Pretty cool.
hike.
So these are of the original, most of these are the original chestnut beams,
Oh,
which is a
wow.
very dense. We had a blight, sadly, in the early. I have a cabin I take care of in the park, and it's the same deal. Very dense, long-lasting wood. And when they rebuilt it, most of these are the original timbers. It's pretty remarkable when you think of buildings being built now.
Yes.
They'd be around in 150 years.
Yes.
So this is an erroneous timeline. I noticed something's written on it. But we were talking about the Fugitive Slave Act, so that's here. Washington is approached in 1790. I keep telling them to change it, and they say it costs too much. Washington is approached by George Mason, who owned slaves, signed the Constitution, neighbor, slave owner. And he says, I lost some slaves. What are you going to do about it? You're president of the United States. So he basically passes what Trump would call an executive order.
Oh, wow.
But it's done on an ad hoc private basis to get a slave. And obviously it depends how valuable you are. So that's kind of an informal
Interesting.
means of returning slaves legally. Now you have by act of Congress, we just fought against Mexico in the
Yes.
short war.
Yes.
And there are 5 provisions, and the worst is this divisive 1850, because now there's no more Ohio River, there's no Mason-Dixon line, it's now Canada where you have to get to.
Yes.
So and it's not surprising that how things accelerate in the 50s, and then we have Fort Sumter.
Yeah.
So I don't want to compete, that's another film.
Okay.
You want to see it?
Sure.
It speaks to his dilemma as a Quaker.
Okay.
So that's his catch-22.
This is actually Palmer. It's about Palmer.
They're talking about Palmer.
Whereas William P. Palmer has had a right of membership in our religious society, having failed to support our testimony against slavery, has indeed failed. Failed to support our testimony against slavery agreeably to the requisition of our discipline.
So he's read out of the church because by virtue of his second marriage, he now owns slaves, even though he's a Quaker. So that's what they're talking about. He is basically excommunicated from the Quaker church, but remains a high member of society, doctor, friend.
We therefore disown him as
So
being
he's
any
been
longer.
disowned.
Yes. Then as this meeting's clerk, I'll sign it on behalf of Indian Spring Monthly Meeting.
'Tis a sad choice William has made, but there's nothing else for us to do.
Well, when the committee gives him this notice, it should also invite him to see his error and apologize for it. Perhaps that will encourage him to mend his ways. There's always
So he doesn't. He keeps the slaves, and then he wills them to Benjamin Palmer, his son. So they're passed on as property.
Oh, wow.
He never frees the slaves that we know of.
He never freed them.
No, he probably wanted to.
Surely he can show him the error of that way of thinking. And if he does free his slaves,
Then the meeting will gladly welcome friend Palmer back into our fold.
So Lex, you'd appreciate this, the whole Quaker concept of equalities. The women had just as much, I'm sure you know of this, just as much right as the men.
Oh, they did?
They figure prominently in this too.
That's interesting.
Speaks to a lot of things.
So how could this, okay, if he did not free his slaves, how could this been a stop on the Underground Railroad?
Because he's in a state through which a lot of slaves escape. And because he probably, as I said in the other room, because he's opposed to slavery, probably knowingly knew. I'm conjecturizing here, but
He's opposed to slavery, but he doesn't free his slaves.
He's opposed to slavery because he's a Quaker, he was raised as a Quaker, but he, I'm guessing privately, and this is what's fascinating about a lot of historical figures, how they feel publicly versus privately. I was thinking of Jackie Robinson, what he was thinking personally versus the outward persona. So Palmer probably was aware, I think, prejudicially, of slaves being hiding in this area. But the more better answer is this is a Quaker community.
Right.
Still is. So you're going to have a lot of people sympathetic to runaway slaves.
Okay.
They're going.
He wasn't necessarily hiding them, but
one group of people that are abetting
that
runaways.
probably used his place. Okay, because I was like, well, that doesn't make sense.
You said earlier that he opposed them until they got married. That he didn't own slaves. He
So
was
his first
against
wife's
it.
a Quaker, everything's fine. His second wife dies, and she comes with her dowry.
Yes.
Another dated term. It includes human beings
Okay.
who are in the journals. You look at the journals in Sandy Spring, and they list slaves and their value along with wagons, horses. So this is actually filmed behind the barn.
Looking kind of tired.
Okay.
Couldn't sleep much last night. Ain't been sleeping good since we came here to this woodlawn. What, the pallet you sleeping on? Holly is fine. I just can't
I
get
have no
my
idea.
head
She's
down.
got the phone. I can't see the time.
Well, we done been here half a year. Ever since the Mrs. Palmer's father passed on and left us and the youngins to them. You best get used to it. Yes, I better. How about you? You still worrying about what you cried about last night? Yeah. The Mrs. Palmer's father was rich. I don't know about that. If he ever gets money problems, one of us could be sold down here.
So that's that expression. So
I don't think
Yes.
you are. Well, you can't tell from looking. Could be owing folks lots of money. They could even sell off one of your children. Down the Bigelow place, they just sold off as his oldest. He only 13. He's a troublemaker. I don't think he'd do that to your children. Makes more sense to keep them here. They mind when they work hard. I'm worried. Because we ain't got to say over our own house. Harmless. If they ever sells me, I walk miles to visit it every Sunday. Oh, I know you would have. But what if they send us out? Down Mississippi or Louisiana. You can't walk from there on Sundays. And working in them cars can kill you. Now that's what I hear.
oh, lost it.
Henry, I'm handicapping away. You have no more work to do?
We do manage that problem.
Get back to it.
It's a little confusing because that's actually Ben Palmer, who is Palmer's son.
Okay.
That's why they're inherited. He was not a doctor. Dr.
Okay.
Palmer, William Palmer was the doctor. It's a little misleading.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what's fascinating, it leads to two other, talking about visiting her on Sundays. So I think you both know the story. So in Douglas's account, his wife, his mother, they're separated when he's young. He's raised by his grandmother on the Anthony farm. She, according to his autobiography, will visit him after working all day in the field, and it's about an 8-mile each way trip just to be with him at night. I think that's a fascinating story. And she will die, and he won't know about it, of course. What's the other thing that raised? It talked about, the other thing is people often think all slaves ran south to north. In the old days, before Florida became a state, a lot of slaves in the deep south went to Florida prior to 1820. Or slaves in western Tennessee or Kentucky would escape to the territories west of the Mississippi because they're not states yet. The irony is so much American history is westward expansion, but in a nutshell, that's the Civil War, because these territories ultimately, when they become states, have to decide if they're going to be pro or anti-slavery. And for a while, they think geometrically, mathematically, we'll add a free state to balance a slave state. And then that, of course, falls apart.
Oh, Rosewood, Florida. Okay. Yeah.
These are some of the games that he's doing with the kids.
Oh, those are games. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I was covering
You saw.
I understand the general.
Yes, Maria Williams.
What was I?
So we can go upstairs and you can still see this over the back.
Okay.
Studying the Bible makes it clear. How so? Judging by the number of Africans slaves
Talk about the Bible here. In the Bible, obviously, there's a lot of connections to slavery, both pro and anti. Southerners would defend slavery referencing Ham, the slave in the biblical times, to justify slavery, which is a little erroneous, but that's what they're getting at.
Yes, he's my cousin. Why does he ask?
His face resembles thine. But I know he still has some slave labor.
Sad but true. I spent many an evening in his company, trying to awaken his spirit to the truth of emancipation. All too little effect, I must admit. I know Roger well, though he can be as kind-hearted as
I think this was filmed, by the way, at the House of Seven Gables.
Oh, I went and visited there.
I think that's the roof
Yes,
from
you're right. That is it. And they had enslaved people in the roof, and I didn't know it till I did the tour.
Slaves are property.
In the attic.
He is a friend, as I am, as we all are.
And many are the friends who keep slaves. And this year, the Baltimore yearly meeting declared that friends should not own slaves. But it may be quite some time before all would flock to our meeting house and see things as clearly as these.
Aye, most haven't freed their Negroes as these. We can only hope they will do so soon.
So this is also interesting. It had parallels the split between the abolitionists, because you have Douglas working with Garrison after he escapes. And Garrison and the earlier abolitionists believed, as many Quakers, in moral suasion. The moral of these people will change their minds and manumit their slaves. And Douglas, in part because he was a slave, walked the walk and talked the talk, said, that's not going to change things. You got to be more militant. And it's similar, I think, to the difference philosophically between a Malcolm X and a Martin Luther King. Because Malcolm X was much more radical and militant, and King was more of the Quaker philosophy. So this is pretty cool. These are the tools they use to change the trees to beams.
Oh, wow. That's
And
interesting.
notice, a lot of these beams are connected. It's like a Lincoln log set, but a lot grander scale. Because metal is hard to come by. You see these are actually brads, or like wedges. So a lot of this is called mortise and tenon. So you put a dowel, you can see it in some of the joints where they're connected. I think the best one is over here. See?
Oh, okay,
So
now,
rather than
yes.
you'd have some kind of joint or an eye bolt. Nowadays, they run pegs, so these went up into there. This is the remains of one.
Okay.
It's been reconfigured when they rebuilt it.
Yes.
But it's pretty amazing how much weight this is holding without a lot of metal. And I was telling you about the
That is amazing.
food being shipped out of the animals. So this is what's left. So it's their
Oh.
So that's what they run the food down to.
Okay.
And this is the smaller. So the reason it's built on this bank, called the bank barn, they run the wagon in here, drop off the fodder, the chaff, the wheat, the alfalfa for the animals, and then run it down to the animals. Or shove it out through the door.
Okay.
And they cover it so nobody can trip on and sue us.
Is the door to the floor below this that is under the original, or was that back on?
I think that was original, and it was in the process of opening that up and covered that cellar. It's pretty amazing. I mean, most of the barn, most of these beams and stones, they obviously redid the roof. There were some holes in the roof. So when you think about how much weight is being held, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I grew up near a dairy farm, and the first time I saw a hayloft, it was like I walked into Madison Square Garden. It was the biggest thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
And it's one of the, I think it's the only stone barn in Montgomery County, and that speaks to Palmer's. And these stones were quarried at Seneca, same place they quarried stones for the Capitol and the White House.
Interesting.
Which, as you know, was built largely with slave labor.
Yes.
As was Georgetown. That was in
Yes.
the
Okay.
Yeah, it's just ruins now. You can just crawl on it. There's just a little plaque that says it is.
I grew up in a house built in 1778, so I've seen boards like this and grads, and it was the same period. It was built earlier than this. This was built in the early 1800s, called the Federal period. Ours, being in New England, was called the Cape Cod, of course, but it's basically a huge chimney with all the beams running off of it. And I swear, some of the rooms, when we were kids, maybe because we jumped around a lot, one corner of the room was 6-8 inches lower than the other corner. So I could talk about the house, but you're going to do the tour, right? So I won't tell you anything. Or I could tell you and spoil it for you.
Well, what time is it?
It's a little afternoon, 12:30.
It's almost, I think, it's like 12:30.
Oh, it's 12:30? Oh. Well, you can still go ahead and talk a little bit about the house.
Let's take a stroll by the outbuilding.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have to be anywhere, but
no.
I'm supposed to greet people, but there are not a lot of people to greet. So if you see anybody, say hello to them. It's not like we're being overwhelmed with visitors, and I think George is on vacation. So I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. We used to do weddings here.
Yes.
There was a concessionaire. That's why some of it's new and some of it. And they have these beautiful flowers, and they had a woman paid big bucks to keep them going.
Yes.
But now they're trying to bring it back to 1820s, 30s.
Okay.
I'm not sure they would have had these, but they're trying to simplify it a little bit.
Okay.
This was a carriage house. They rebuilt it. Now it's a visitor center.
Oh, this was a carriage house.
It was falling apart when I first worked here. The whole thing.
So that's the barn. This carriage center.
And the bathrooms weren't built.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge.
And we're going to the manor, the house.
The bathroom we had was a porta potty.
Oh, wow. That is a huge improvement.
These are really clean.
It wasn't a big hit with large groups.
No, I can imagine. It would not be. So.
Did you see this clock? Well, you guys are parked out here, right?
Yeah.
When you leave, I'm not trying to throw you out, but this plaque you can't see.
Uh-huh.
This gets back to the Quaker's philosophy. It is a picture.
Oh, I smell the horses.
Yeah. Anyway, the Quakers were so obsessed with not being attacked, being pacifists, and here we are in Maryland where you had people sympathetic to the North and the South. They made literally a fake cannon. You hear the word fake news a lot with, who in the White House?
Yeah.
Well, this was a tree. They cut it, and they painted black to look like from a distance that it was a cannon, hoping they wouldn't be attacked.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I don't know. Good question.
Interesting.
I want to think it worked. You need a permit to take it.
Yeah, I asked for that.
Please stay on the wall. I'm getting a little punchy.
Okay, what are these buildings?
I'm gonna be patient now.
Okay, I'll be patient.
I have a guess.
Okay, so this is a restored slave cabin. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to say enslaved.
Oh, this is a restored
We're supposed to say
enslaved cabin?
People, not
Okay.
slaves, but I get that wrong sometimes.
Get a photo.
It is locked because there are a lot of bugs in there. We don't want to scare you. But the interesting thing is the old cabin, the original cabin, was falling apart. In the 1970s, when Maryland Park and Planning, my company, bought this land and decided to transform it into a slave, an anti-slave locale, they rebuilt it. What did they forget? What's missing?
The
chimney. So
Oh.
all these smart people, they forgot the chimney, which they would have used obviously for cooking and heat.
Oh,
And
my
guess
God.
what? We think over 10 enslaved people lived in there.
Over 10 in this one? Wow.
This
Wow.
was a guest house.
Yes.
See a bed.
You can see the end of a bed.
Oh,
Short,
yes.
It's pretty small.
Yes.
This is a patio that used to be for the wedding receptions.
Okay.
You get married here in the gazebo. The weather was good. And
Yes.
you have the reception there. That obviously was not here.
Okay, that's the gazebo.
Second floor in that house.
There is.
How? Where's
So like an Alice in Wonderland house.
It's got to be. Nobody can stand up there.
People say, wait a minute, they got this huge house. They need a small, dinky guest house? They must really not like them. Well, the original house, this is a good place to see it. The original house, it's a little confusing. You see the back part where the chimney is. The original house ended there, this way, and this extension here. In other words, the house was basically half as small as it is now.
Okay.
Palmer and his son added the back part and this part.
Okay.
So it would have maybe necessitated a guest house. This would have been the spring house, and like the barn, they would have put, roots, potatoes, things they want to keep cold. And we didn't see it, but there was a pond near that bamboo.
Yes.
And if it was cold enough, they would cut the ice, put it with sawdust in there.
Okay, so Dr. Palmer's, the father's first name was what?
William Palmer is the one who...
Dr. William Palmer.
William Palmer was the second owner of this house.
Why is it called Woodlawn Manor?
Because they would give homes names like Tara and 12 Oaks, Gone with the Wind.
Okay.
It was sort of this Arcadian...
Okay.
I don't know if it's a Greek word or Roman, to make it sound better.
Okay.
There's probably a better answer to that.
Okay. Just curious.
I'm running out of stuff here.
No problem. No problem.
But I'm very excited because my family's returning tonight. My wife's been away and my daughter's been away.
Okay.
So this is not part of the tour, but and you can't really see them yet because they haven't come out. This is an Osage orange tree, and there are not many of those. But the Osage, the Otos, Native Americans in Oklahoma and Nebraska, and getting back to Lewis and Clark, they brought back Osage orange seeds.
Oh.
And this may have come from those seeds. I don't know. Some are here.
Okay.
There's one here. There's some north of the Capitol, and there's some at Monticello.
Drop large green fruit in
It's
early
a very
fall.
ugly. I think there's one starting over here. It's a very ugly fruit. Here's an early one. Actually,
Oh, I've seen
so
those.
this is an Osage, which looks horrible.
Yeah.
But underneath this is citrus.
Oh,
So
really?
it does relate to the runaway.
There's a big one.
There's a
Oh,
big
there
one.
is a big one
So
on
you
the
might
tree.
actually get inside it and eat this
Let's
stuff.
see.
I don't recommend it,
Can I? Where
but
is
it's
it?
possible that runaway slaves
It's like
would
right
be.
there.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it, but then when I zoom in, I don't see it. Oh, I see it. It is on my
Zoom in
screen.
this and make it bigger.
Okay.
Exhibit A.
Yes.
The gloves don't fit, votes will quit.
That's
That's another story. So,
okay. I got it. Thank you.
and you don't want to get hit in the head with these. I had a tour once and one fell and almost hit somebody.
Oh, no.
All right, so I'm going to give away the store here because you're going to hear this later. I
Okay.
think you're going to fire me by the time 2 o'clock.
No,
But
no,
anyway,
no.
So what's interesting is the original owners of this house, we don't know the exact year. We know it was early 1800s. It's a Federalist era house. You can see the line, so that's where the original house ended.
Uh-huh.
It's called Luxembourg bricks. You'll notice they're long and short. They were interlocked, so it was a more secure fit with the bricks.
Okay.
And the part you saw earlier, they add in the back. The dormers weren't there, and they didn't have lightning rods. So some of the characteristics of Federalist era architecture is symmetrical windows. They redid the front porch. See the whiter brick in the middle?
Yes.
and you'll see this, I think you were both in the visitor center. Originally there was a wraparound porch. There's a picture on the left when you go in the visitor center, and it's Benjamin Palmer and Cleora, his mother, sitting in front of the old house. And at that time they had a wraparound porch because there's no air conditioning, so it would make it a little cooler.
Yes.
But what's interesting is the original owners were the Thomas family, and Mr. and Mrs. Thomas were Quakers, and they ran a boarding school.
Oh, this was a boarding school?
It was originally a Quaker boarding school. And
Okay.
guess two of the most famous students were Francis Scott Key's daughters.
Really?
So he would come after writing his bestseller. He would come out here on horseback and visit his daughters.
Okay.
So Palmer is the second owner, and he will move here in 1822. He moves here. He marries Sarah. Her portrait's inside. She's the one who sadly dies. Then he remarries Cleora, and Cleora is the one who is Episcopalian and owned slaves. So
Okay.
that's another reason.
Oh, he married an
So
Episcopalian.
he marries a non-Quaker. So that's
Okay.
where the plot thickens, and it's another reason we do the tour here.
Okay.
Getting back to your earlier question.
All right. Did his son, who inherited...
Benjamin inherits the house and the slaves.
Benjamin, did he free slaves? No, nobody freed
They
slaves.
were freed, we think, by virtue of the Civil War and the amendments.
Okay.
In Maryland, actually, they might have been freed. Maryland, a year before the 13th Amendment, a year after the Emancipation Proclamation, Maryland freed their slaves.
Okay.
So we think 1864 they were free.
1864.
But I still like the story that 4 of them may have escaped. We have no proof, but I think it's possible.
Yes. Okay.
Is anybody asking how much?
You guys
further it
haven't, how much?
is? They're still asking how much further it is?
No, they're not. They're just listening. You guys have any questions? Any more questions?
I think the family story, not to give away the story here, the family story is more interesting than the inside of the house. Sadly, much of the inside of the house has been restored, and it doesn't look anything like the early 1800s from the inside. But as I said, a lot of questions, one of the most asked questions on our tours is, can we go in the house? So that's why we do the house tour.
Yeah. Is it a private home now, museum?
No, it's part of Maryland Park and Planning.
Part of Maryland Park and Planning. It is
That's
not a
the
private
umbrella
home.
organization that I work for.
Okay.
There are offices, administrative offices in the back. There's a kitchen through there, which wasn't there then because that's an addition. And there are some chairs, and there is a fireplace. You can't really see it from the outside, but originally the fireplace kitchen would have been separate from the house
Yeah.
because they're worried about fires.
Yes.
So in the old days, they would be separated from the house. They always had fires.
What year was it built?
Early 1800s. We don't have an exact year.
Okay.
We do know that Palmer bought it in 1822.
Okay.
And then it went through about
Why
6 different
restore
families.
inauthenticity? There are offices up there, I guess.
So it went through about 5 families. The most recent was the McKeever family. And in 1971, I think Park and Planning bought it.
1971 Park and
So we
Planning.
share it with the Park Police.
Okay.
They, as I said, we used to do weddings here.
Yes.
It's a nice view of the barn, though.
It is a beautiful view of the
And you
barn.
get the sense of how it's on it. They do this a lot in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Build their barns on a hill.
Why
You can
is the
see
barn
I don't
built
know if
on
you
a
can
hill?
Zoom in. There's a cornerstone that says W.B. Palmer, 1832.
Oh,
In the upper right.
interesting. Yes,
Usually
you
they're on
guys
the bottom,
see it?
But everybody's afraid they miss
The
it.
cornerstone is at the top. Oh, they use gravity? Use gravity to do what? Why is the barn built?
It's built on a bank because if you walk over here, they would run the wagon in this level, the top level.
Yes.
That's what I was talking about inside. Drop
Yes.
off the food,
Yes.
and then it would make its way down to the animals.
Okay.
The animals being housed in the bottom.
Okay.
It also saves a little bit on labor because you have a little bit of a berm with the land. See the way that the stones were built to go in that way?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very interesting.
I bet your fans are really interested in this. We can talk about fertilizer. We can talk about manure.
Okay.
We can talk about anything. But Palmer, being the smart man that he was, and Ben more so, they actually, we have been told, imported guano from Peru. It's bird poop.
Oh.
They would use it for their fields.
Really?
And a lot of people were very wasteful with, partly because this is sort of irony in American history, land was so cheap. Cotton and tobacco are very soil exhaustive crops, and a lot of Southerners, rather than rotate their crops, which by the way the Native Americans knew about, because you take all the nutrients out of the soil over time, so you leave a field fallow. The Native Americans knew about this, some of the Quakers did, and they would reinforce it with manure.
Well, they said bat poop.
Yep, they used bat poop as well.
Okay.
Guano is I guess it's the Spanish word.
Okay.
But that's pretty cool. I mean, that's not easy
That
to
is...
import guano, but apparently it helped with your crop. So it speaks to how scientific both Benjamin and William were.
Yes.
End of story.
Okay. And how long is the tour of the house?
For you, 2 minutes.
Okay. How long will it be today?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay, so this is the Woodlawn Manor house. All right. Well, thank you.
It's called the Georgian entrance. They rebuilt that in the 20th century.
Woo.
That entrance. And I think in the picture there were 2 big trees right out here. They've since died. But this tree by the fence is an original oak, I think.
Okay.
Some of these are the original trees somewhere.
Oh, wow.
And basically, as far as you can see, even now, was owned by Palmer.
It's a lot of land.
A lot of land.
Yeah. A lot of land.
About 900 acres.
Yeah. So when did they start doing the Underground Railroad, trail hikes?
4 years ago.
4 years ago. Okay.
I think 4 years ago.
Okay.
I'm one of the veterans.
Are you? Awesome.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know
So
what's going on.
Is it time for a quiz? Ask if they're ready for a quiz.
Okay, are you guys ready for a quiz?
Just kidding. That's the teacher in there.
Welcome back, Annette. They love trivia.
Do you have more questions or anything else? Okay.
I'm like thinking.
You're thinking?
To my brain for any more. Well, also, I think you probably.
So, what did you say that red house is in the distance?
It used to be a general store.
Oh, that was a general store?
Brick store, red roof store. And it reminds me when I was a kid, they'd have this huge glass case with penny candies and things. And for a long time, it was a general store.
Thanks for sharing, Gloma.
And the hope is maybe at some point they have to work on the parking. It's a very
you guys own it now?
We own it, and down the road it may be a visitor center. We don't know.
Okay.
We have to do some zoning issues with the parking.
Okay.
And if you're at that intersection during rush hour, it's amazing. I always think of rush hour as the Beltway. It's pretty slow in that intersection. So it talks about the school. The Thomases were related to Philip Thomas, and he was the board member of the B&O Railroad.
Oh.
They obviously were pretty well off. And you can see some of the guano, thanks to some birds, on that sign. Because I know they're interested in manure.
Oh, that's what's on the sign.
That's what the white stuff is.
Okay.
I think there's a bad joke about Bill Cosby. Let's talk about
No, let's stay away from him. Yeah, guano is bat poop, bird poop from Peru.
And I hope they remember more than that.
Okay, so there's the barn. That's the museum. Okay, I'm going to show you guys the Keystone. I'll zoom in on this thing. There we go.
If you want to see the keystones, you're going to have to go back around.
Huh?
They're on the back side.
Okay.
So that's a lot of weight. What you really can't see, which is also interesting, the stones, I can't see this with the naked eye, but
it's the only stone barn.
The stones gradually are smaller as they went up in height to help hold it.
I have no idea.
Well, because they're worried about the thing collapsing. Oh, and what I didn't point out, I should have on the other side, they do this in Holland, as if that wasn't enough support, they also ran pipes through the interior of the barn, like a girdle, holding it together. You can't see them because they're shrouded in the beams.
Yes.
I should have pointed them out. I don't know if you notice those S's on the back side. That's the end of the pipe. And that also holds the building together.
Okay.
And the birds like it.
Yeah.
I'm often asked those little slugs, that's for snow, to keep the snow from falling down. We have them in our house. I don't think they do any good.
Okay.
But that's why they're there.
Okay. You're welcome, guys. Thanks for joining. So, should I scope down on the barn?
I expect to see all these people we talked about coming out on our tours.
He said you've got to come out on the tours. Absolutely. So if you're in the area, come out for a tour.
So we have boxwood as well. This used to be a patch of boxwood. There's still some left. There's some cancer. We've had this at our house. So I'm guessing they're going to plant something else.
Okay.
So in the good old days, when I'd sit here during the weekdays when nobody'd come and I'd grade papers, but sometimes there'd be a wedding. And I was asked several times by the photographer to get out of the picture, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Not the first time.
Yeah.
The classic question was, sometimes they're horses. I don't think they're out today. I'd often be asked by people, can you arrange the horses so we can take a picture of the bride and groom? I guess, isn't there a movie, Runaway Bride or something with Julia Roberts?
Oh, yeah,
I said,
yeah.
Well, I have a lot of power, but I don't have that. They were serious. They said, could you bring the horses over?
Bring the horses over here. We want the horses.
Yeah.
So what time is it?
Probably 12:40.
12:50.
12:50. You're good.
Lunchtime. Did you bring lunch?
I did.
Yeah, what are we having?
A veggie wrap.
A veggie wrap. Nice.
You want a veggie wrap? 12:49. Thank you, guys. So that's the barn, you guys, and then the Underground Railroad Trail.
So I don't think your group wants to hear this story, but for what it's worth, I was here last 2 falls ago before our president became inaugurated, and they did a practice protest because they train on horses here. Park police, they patrol the parks.
Oh.
That's why it's part of Maryland Park and Planning. The Maryland suburban parks, the Virginia suburban parks, and D.C. parks. They were doing a mock demonstration with protesters. I felt like I was getting back to the 60s we were talking about. I'm parking in this lower lot because they're redoing this. Literally a Volkswagen bus, talk about a stereotype, pulls in. These guys get out with Grateful Dead shirts, peace symbols, long hair, either it was a wig or not. And they are the protesters, and they did a mock, and they had police on horseback. They didn't use tear gas, they used flares, and they did a mock exchange.
Oh my God.
And I think they had to do that. I think something happened on 14th Street. Somebody went nuts and got carried away. But anyway, they were training for the inauguration.
Interesting. Interesting. Yes, it is raining. Yeah, it's raining again. So I'm going to, you saw the writing on the wall? Oh, good. That's awesome. So I'm going to sculpt down and then I will come back and do the house. You looking for a chair?
I'm going to greet in the chair.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you so much,
okay,
Mike Petty.
So
yes, we are. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to take a lunch break.
And I'm free if you want to ask questions. We can do this out of the rain. I'm going to get a chair.
Out of the rain is probably a good idea.
Get a chair and come back here because I'm old.
A mock not on horses. Thanks, Mike. Awesome scope. They said thank you. Yeah. So, guys, I'm going to scope down here on the barn. So let me turn around. I'm going to scope down on the barn. And the Underground Railroad hike was amazing. They do it with character actors, which was last night. I missed that. And lanterns. So the next one won't be until November, but I will definitely try and do that scope because I think doing it in the dark, trying to look for the North Star, that's got to be pretty amazing. So that has to be more immersive. But this one was definitely immersive. Okay. So anyway, thanks for joining, guys. I'm going to scope down, and I will see you guys in a little bit. So appreciate all the hearts and the shares, and see you guys later. Thank you.